Greetings, fellow armchair imagineers. It's crazy Andy Circus here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And pie on my cake.
Because I'm crazy. All right, I'm done. All right, Tiki here, folks, and welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. You know what? I'm a white guy, and I like playing the crazy role, and so I feel like Andy Serkis is kind of like one of the few roles I can actually take on in Black Panther. So I'm gonna do it. Gosh darn it, I'm crazy.
I guess that makes me Everett Ross then.
Dragon, I actually think you would make a very fine Everett Ross, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, I could see you having that brave, like, self, that like, put me back in, Tiki. I can do this. But, no, seriously.
I'll play the tree in the background.
Wish that there was a moment with Claw where he just straight up was just like, I'm crazy.
I made it rain.
God. Oh, so obviously, folks, we're having fun with the Claw character. It is the Black Panther spoiler cast. How you doing, Pi? This is your first proper Marvel podcast on the channel, I believe.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. I love Marvel.
Yeah, and of course, it's been Dragon and I pretty much the whole way through with special guest appearances by Jacob Gulliver. Go check him out at hotchocolatemedia.net, along with Kyle Decker, who's doing a movie review every single day as part of a year-long blog series. Anyways, folks, Kyle Decker absolutely loved this movie, and so did I. But we're going to get to that. We're going to build to that because I've seen this 2 times. Pi and Dragon have only seen it once. Dragon, the folks already kind of know your opinions on this movie a little bit if they watched our non-spoiler first reactions we did Thursday night. So with that in mind, I want to just give you the chance to kind of just give the kids at home a little rundown, a little taste of your overall thoughts.
Well, yeah, my overall thoughts are I had a really good time with Black Panther. Lived up to the hype. Pretty much everything I was expecting. We'll get into it, throughout. It's like the worst thing I'd say about the movie is I have a few gripes, but I'll say this as my brief thesis is that any of these gripes really, there's nothing against the movie itself, just more of like how it stands as a Marvel film. There's very, very minute gripes that even by that standard, don't hurt. It was just a really, it was a fun experience. It has some great kind of thought provoking. There's a thought-provoking undercurrent that I appreciate. I think kind of makes it stand above something like some of the other kind of off, not off kilter, but kind of the off to the side Marvel films. Kind of the on the side. It's like a side order of, can I get a side order of Ant-Man and like a side order of Doctor Strange? Give me like a big old, like a big old side order of Black Panther. And in this case, again, it was just it was very delighted with. Had a great in-theater experience. Had a great just kind of, again, I don't know what it was. It was the day of Black Panther. Everything was just kind of coming up 7. Everything was everything was going great. Again, I even like the use I ran across in the day. Like we were reveling over, oh my God, Black Panther's going to be so good, isn't it? And so it was. I'm still riding high and just stewing on it further since I've seen it. Again, I'm still like thinking that, man, that movie was very well conceived. And
so, folks, just before we get any further, I want to just take the time to salute Black Panther for having the 5th largest opening weekend for any movie ever at over 190 million. I mean, to me, that's just absolutely insane. For a character like this, who, as important as he is to the African American community, and I'm sure we'll get into that as we go through the discussion. I just like a character, this kind of character. He's always been kind of like on the fringes of popularity in Marvel Comics all the way from when I knew him. And so to see something like this, to see a movie like this that's not only so culturally relevant, but it's done with a character that's, relatively low scale compared to something like a Spider-Man or even a Captain America or a Thor. it's just like anything is possible in the MCU now in terms of box office, in terms of creativity, in terms of world building, in terms of character. And just that opening weekend, just I don't know, it really is kind of like one of those coming together as human being moments, isn't it?
That's insane. That's huge.
I never would have. I never would have bet $1 million. I wouldn't have bet. I wouldn't have bet $1 on it breaking 150 million opening. Honestly, like it crushed my expectations.
I was seeing that closer into the release with all the hype around it. I wouldn't have guessed that several months ago. But between all the hype and the great reviews that I was starting to get, I was starting to think it was going to be that big.
Yeah, well, at any rate, hats off to to Ryan Coogler, Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, the entire talented cast and crew. Anyways. So Pi, so why don't we get to you first? Of course, typically how we like to do this is give us your kind of, your thoughts coming in and your first impressions going out.
Well, going in, I honestly didn't know too much what to expect. I thought it was going to be an exciting film and all, but I know Ryan Coogler from Creed, and I loved that movie, so I was expecting there to be some really great character drama and emotional moments here, especially with how great the Black Panther character was in Civil War. But I didn't know how he was going to handle the more superhero sides, or exactly how much focus we're going to get on Wakanda. And I was expecting Everett Ross to be just a cameo, which I was very wrong about that one. And then coming out, I just loved it. This movie was so good. I've always been a big fan of the idea of like a fantasy society that's built around magic, so to speak, that then just keeps going, and now you have them in modern day with technology that's been built around that magic. In like my mind, I tend to see this more in like medieval European fantasy, because that's what I'm more used to, like Merlin and politics or dragons flying around skyscrapers. But mixing in the African mysticism and the
How
vibranium,
dare you call Bright anything less than a masterclass at world building, Pi?
Oh, I actually haven't seen that one, but from what I hear,
Dragon's the only one in the room who has.
But yeah, I always like things like that, and this just did it so well. The African mysticism, the vibranium, which, let's face it, is essentially magic, mixed in with all this science and technology, and the movie had that going for it. It felt a bit like a James Bond film at times. It had some times where it felt like a superhero movie, and some times where it felt like a Game of Thrones, Politics of the Crown type epic story. It was a lot of things all at once. Maybe one or two times it felt like it ignored or didn't fully develop certain elements just because of how much was in there, but overall it came together really nicely, really complex, detailed plot.
Yeah, I love this movie, and I'm not just writing the hype on it, because honestly, this is a type of movie where, much like something like Call Me By Your Name, a very different movie from this year, but Call Me By Your Name, of course, had that political edge to it where it was like, oh, is it just the fact that it's kind of catering to the LGBT crowd? Is that the reason why it's getting buzzed? No, Call Me By Your Name is a freaking beautiful story. Black Panther, I got to admit, there's some stuff that we're going to talk about maybe in the Black History Month side of this in terms of the cultural impact of the character, where especially when the first negative reviews started coming in, like it was like 3 out of 5 reviews or 3 out of 5 star reviews, and there were kind of just stuff that made me uncomfortable with the way people handled that. I don't want to dive too much into that, because this should be a celebration of the film, and the film itself really deserves to be celebrated. And that's what I'm saying. Like, in spite of having my own sort of like initial hesitation of like, oh God, people are just kind of holding this movie up on a pedestal for political reasons. It doesn't really matter how good the movie actually is. When I watched the movie, I was like, oh no, this movie, it kicks ass. I mean, this movie is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I am kind of riding a high on it. Of course, I have seen it twice, so I've been able to digest a lot of the details of it. Pi, I very much agree that this is freaking Game of Thrones. Like, you know, as much Guardians of the Galaxy was MCU Star Wars, this is Marvel's Game of Thrones. I really think so.
Aquaman really should be taking notes after seeing Black Panther in retrospect.
I will say, this engaged me for 2 hours and 15 minutes more than Game of Thrones did in like the 6 hours that I've actually given to that show before kind of giving up on it. So, you know, I don't know. There's just something about, like, not only does this movie have the sprawling story, it's got the visual flair of Ryan Coogler and just the also the emotional power punch of Ryan Coogler at the same time. Of course, the movie that people forget about in his filmography is a movie that sticks really close to home for me because it was close to where I actually live. I remember it on the news, Fruitvale Station. And so this movie just it did such a good job of just kind of you know, drawing you into the characters and the world and just subverting your expectations all the way through. And I don't know, I'm just kind of hyped on it, especially after seeing it a second time. However, I don't want to go into this with you guys thinking that I just think this is a perfect movie, because very few movies are perfect. And there are a couple critical errors I feel like this movie pulls. Nothing to the point where it's like, oh my God, this is anything less than like a terrific Marvel movie. But I think pacing is an issue with this movie in a couple places that we'll kind of get to as we go through the spoiler cast. There is a chunk of the movie where the main character kind of drops off, and it's very obvious what's actually going to happen to him. But the movie kind of plays it like, oh, is it, you know? And so with that in mind, I kind of felt like that sort of stuff got stretched out a little bit. And I honestly thought that the fight scenes and the action in general wasn't that great. So really the action and, you know, and a couple plot points, that was really my only issue with it. And the pacing in one or two spots. But other than that, I mean, you know, as I said, that's just kind of like nitpicky territory here. Other than those couple of things, really, this is definitely one of the best of the MCU. In terms of where it ranks in the MCU, sorry, Jacob Gulliver, I still think that my two favorites are Guardians and Guardians Volume 2. Honestly, they're interchangeable at this point. I think Guardians 1 is probably the more solid movie all the way through. I think Guardians 2 has a better villain, and it also has a better ending. And it has, like, one of my favorite movie endings ever, to tell you the truth. Like, that whole ending montage with the funeral, just, oh my God, it just gets to me. So, with that in mind, I also would rank Thor Ragnarok a little bit ahead of this. Not because this doesn't, this is very ambitious with its, you know, this is obviously a much more character-driven movie than Thor Ragnarok is. However, Thor Ragnarok is just sheer wish fulfillment at that point. You know what I mean? Thor Ragnarok just hits so many notes of like, oh my God, you know, this on screen. It's wonderful. And it was such an encapsulation of what reading a random issue of a Marvel comic was like, with Doctor Strange popping in and out, and you know, and then kind of like the weird and wacky characters and the situations and the quirky humor. And Thor Ragnarok is definitely the least serious movie in the Marvel filmography, but I also think it's the most true to the Marvel experience, like the Marvel comic experience. So I got to put Thor Ragnarok at number 3 behind the Guardians movies. I got to say Black Panther is a solid number 4 with Captain America Civil War. Just barely, like Black Panther barely edges out Civil War. Or, I'm sorry, Winter Soldier, not Civil War, Winter Soldier. So that's where I'd lay, like, number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, number 3, Thor Ragnarok, number 4, Black Panther, number 5, Captain America Winter Soldier. All right.
Fair enough.
So, guys, with that in mind, let's get into the actual movie. Dragon, I believe you have some background for us.
Yes, I do. Okay, here's the backstory. So, believe it or not, Black Panther, of course, being the super important character that he is, and then he was the first black hero created by Stan Lee, believe it or not, which is awesome. Again, Stan Lee has kind of taken the. I say that because some people are surprised when they hear Stan Lee because very much Stan Lee's just kind of he's the banner guy who appears in the Marvel movie whether he creates the character or not. And of course, when you realize, of course, he appeared in Fantastic Four, certainly Stan Lee created him. So Black Panther, of course, very highly anticipated character. And a movie for Black Panther has been in the works since 1992, which again is very ironic.
Yeah.
Yes, very ironic. So it's been in the works since '92, technically, and it's always been championed. At the very beginning, it's been championed by Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes wanted to direct and possibly direct and star in it from the beginning. I know he eventually kind of shifted over the starring, but I think he wanted to do both. So Wesley Snipes was attached to do a Black Panther film. He was very much championed for getting black heroes very well represented on screen. That was kind of his mission statement. And again, 92, he's kind of has this mission statement, and of course we know where eventually this gets him. So years go by, we near 94. Now, 94, this is in the early kind of 90s era for the Marvel films, way before Marvel Studios, and we're getting films like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four is in development. We get the not so good Captain America films.
I actually watched through that during my childhood in Dragon. That was a painful sit, I gotta say.
The Captain America ones?
I think I only saw the first one, but yeah, it was long. It was boring.
The point is, Marvel definitely had some rough years in the 90s. So the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, and there were a number of films that just really
Dolph Lundgren Punisher is okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a whole tangent about the different kind of qualities of all the various Punishers on film, but let's just say, Lundgren has his redeeming qualities in that film, yes.
And of course, you can't forget the cinematic opus that is Howard the Duck. I mean, come on.
Certainly. So the point is, at that time, like the ones they eventually got to screen were just kind of floundering, let's say. They also had films in development. The films in development, Tiki Gnosis from the awesome documentaries I'll plug right here, Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, which is on Amazon, and you can go get the DVD, whatever you like to do, really good. I think it's also on Hulu, if anyone's interested, regardless. We learned in that film that the other films that are being planned in that 90s period for Marvel were the James Cameron Spider-Man. You had Wes Craven directing Doctor Strange, being all set to direct the Doctor Strange film. And you had the Wesley Snipes Black Panther also in development. So, again, that's kind of what's going on kind of the mid-90s with all this. During Marvel's kind of heyday. So we eventually, Marvel goes bankrupt and kind of in tune with their cinematic plans, they have to sell the film rights so they can keep the company afloat. That's kind of what gets these films kind of in various degrees of, like ownership and, and production. Eventually, we enter Avi Arad. Avi Arad, of course, kind of the pioneer of kind of crafting, not a cinematic universe, but kind of crafting franchises out of the Marvel characters. He started in X-Men, the animated series, and he brought it to life with, the X-Men movie. But before the X-Men, in 1998, Wesley Snipes, he plays Blade while the studios are working out Black Panther. Because again, because of all this studio chaos and Avi Arad kind of stepping in, trying to kind of make franchises out of these, kind of Black Panther's kind of up in the air because, well, he kind of appeared in Fantastic Four first, and but he's also, he's got a history of being an Avenger, and we want to make him his own separate thing. So there's a lot of stuff that's definitely kind of being tossed around Black Panther. Well, the studios are figuring that out. Wesley Snipes, I really want to do this, but at the same time, I can bring a black character to life in Blade, kind of a more obscure Marvel character, and just they're testing the waters before they get to their big kind of name brand X-Men properties. So 98 he's playing Blade, which of course just he continues on playing Blade again continually. Black Panther is just kind of mingling. It's in development. Heck, let's say he continues to play Blade because he's kind of locked in there kind of for a 3-picture deal. So he keeps playing it till up to Blade 3 in 2003. So 07. Again, still wanting to make that Black Panther film while it's just looming around there. He would gladly sacrifice Blade 3 for Black Panther, but around this time, by the time 07 rolls around, Kevin Feige, he begins the MCU plan, which takes Black Panther off the table. And the proof of this, if anyone's interested, Iron Man 2 famously has a little reference to Wakanda. It's a real subtle one. If you look really closely, the map at the end, it's in front of Tony Stark's face. Nick Fury is kind of showing to him with the whole, like, he wants him to be a consultant. There's two markers, one in Wakanda, and the other in the ocean, implying Namor, which unfortunately they still don't have the rights to. So they don't have the rights to Namor yet, but give it time. We live in an age of impossible.
Also, Dragon, I imagine by the time Kevin Feige came into the picture, Wesley Snipes' legal troubles also probably started rearing their ugly head.
Exactly. So the point is, unfortunately, and again, my heart goes out to Wesley Snipes, and I really wish they could have given like a cameo or something in this movie, because he was the guy who championed this film.
A cameo definitely would have been nice.
That's the thing. I mean, I know I can understand maybe a potential fear of like, oh, people might think we're starting to introduce Blade if Wesley Snipes shows up, but then I don't know. It's
damn it, I want Blade in the MCU. Let me just make that clear. I want Blade. I want Ghost Rider. I want all of my weird supernatural Marvel characters.
And look, without getting on a tangent, let's just say again, those ideas were definitely flirted around for potential Netflix series, but unfortunately, things have those waters have been muddied. Late. Anyways, getting back to the Black Panther, we're almost to the end where we link up now. So again, he begins the grand MCU plan. Iron Man 2 is like, man, we want to do Black Panther, got to do all this other stuff first. So there's the big holdout. The reason it took so long to bring Black Panther to screen with the MCU in place, with building the MCU, is there's a real question of how the heck do we bring the wondrous utopia that is Wakanda to life?
It's almost like the Doctor Doom problem, right?
In a way, yes. And again, that's something Marvel definitely will have to figure out in the future. How do you introduce the Fantastic Four without having to start everything from scratch? Like, how can you do it in a way that doesn't feel like an origin film, despite most likely having to be?
I feel like at this point they've got the hidden society with Doctor Doom. That could be way more easily accomplished now.
And again, I've always pitched that idea. I would love to see kind of like basically Doctor Doom seen as the evil version of Black Panther, when he's really not a bad guy, but becomes a villain, being looked at as the bad guy. That sort of thing. Anyway, so the point is, Wakanda was the big sticking point. How do we do that right? And of course, slowly over time, when we get to Age of Ultron, they're slowly building Wakanda. We introduce Claw, we mention Wakanda, we mention more vibranium. So we're slowly building it. The setting, which again, Wakanda is key before you get Black Panther. Civil War, we get the grand introduction to Black Panther. Now we've laid some track with the other big Avengers movie.
And in Civil War, I've mentioned this before, Black Panther's really just a man on a revenge mission more than anything else.
Yes, but he still
really get to know a lot about his culture, which is very important kind of going forward, because he's more of a blank slate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's kind of the scene stealer in many regards. Like, people want to know more about this guy, and that basically laying path, kind of laying pipe for the Black Panther movie. Like, I want to know more about this. Where does a guy get a suit like that?
Mm-hmm.
The fans go gaga for him, and I think the underlining thing to getting Black Panther on a film was, this is the underlying thing that Marvel can't necessarily say, but I'm just going to infer here in looking for the talent. Like, who the heck's going to direct this and write this? How are we going to, who are we looking to for this project? I think there was a big undercurrent that they realized of, this is a big film, and we're going to need, and the African American talent will kind of swarm to this movie, and we just got to be smart enough to kind of roll with that. There's some meandering around at that point, and eventually. Again, you'll notice, and I'm going to be building to here for a moment, there was a lot of African-American talent considered for this film. And there was a lot, almost every, again, like Wesley Snipes back in the development days of this, we have a lot of very prominent black actors in this film. And of course, our director, Ryan Coogler. Before we get him, we actually get someone else who's going to have a thrilling year this year, Ava DuVernay? The one who's doing Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, she was considered for Black Panther. She was very much.
I remember that. Yeah,
she was announced initially as the director, but then Ryan Coogler.
Honestly, I think she's probably going to fit better into Wrinkle of Time, and Coogler just fits like a glove into Black Panther.
She wanted to do the movie, but A Wrinkle in Time was her passion project, very much like kind of how Del Toro has pitched so many movies, and he goes with Shape of Water because that's his passion project.
Yeah,
Something happens with directors.
on Del Toro and his quote unquote passion projects.
Anyway, so they land Coogler in 2015 after Creed. Creed is kind of taking the world by storm. And realized, okay, Coogler's our guy. I love Creed. Let's try to get him. He was in the running. He was one of the names we pitched. So let's bring him in. And we get Coogler, of course. You get other players, and basically his good luck charm, his John Ratzenberg, if you will, with Michael B. Jordan. He's definitely infused into the film, and again, he brings a lot of power in this movie. We also this is a fun fact here. This is like one time with attracting kind of some of the great African American talent in writing and directing that we have in this film, and it shows. Donald and I believe his brother, I'm guessing his brother, Donald and Stephen Glover, they contributed to the film. Their big contribution, they are listed in the special thanks category. Of course, Donald Glover, the new Lando Calrissian. He's he writes Atlanta. He's working on the Deadpool animated show. And he was in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
And he's also a rapper, like a popular rapper.
Oh, sure. And his big contribution was to all the early on in the script, the T'Challa and the Shuri stuff. That was all them. That was them. They came up with the big, the
oh,
sister.
Nice. Okay.
So I don't know if every single thing was them. I just know that in the initial draft, they drew emphasis on that bond, on that dynamic. So that dynamic is, I would assume, all of the stuff is very much thanks to that contribution. There was this big Christopher Priest, and basically, in terms of writing, Christopher Priest, who was like the premier Black Panther writer, he was definitely looked to for like what kind of vibe we're striking with the film. And look-wise, they went back to the early Kirby designs from the very creation. It was like you kind of the African village from a distance. You come up close, and then you have like all the kind of the technological utopia. It was very much like a Jack Kirby edition.
Definitely feels very Kirby.
Lastly, Coogler, he wanted, this is a fun one, blows my mind. He actually wanted an additional villain, if not a different villain. The villain that he wanted. It would have been perfect, but he wanted Kraven the Hunter.
Oh my God.
He really wanted Kraven the Hunter as the bad guy, which would have been fine. I don't know if he was going to be the main one or if he was going to be like an additional one, but
I mean, I know nothing about Killmonger from the comics, so I have no idea, but I can't picture this movie without Killmonger.
Yeah. It would have been an entirely different movie.
Yeah.
It would have been. And again, I know the perfect guy to play Kraven.
Oh, dear.
Stefan Kapusek. Yeah, it would have been, great. Anyway, but yeah, so they wanted Kraven to obviously do the rights issues, especially being worked out. And again, now that situation's kind of blown up and it's fluid whenever Kraven unfortunately was a no-go, so you get a lot of hype. Again, it's the hype went into the stratosphere for this film. It is very much taken on a life of its own. It's almost like the new Black Panther. It's like the more positive new Black Panther movement in a way,
And I feel like in terms of cinema, I feel like this is it very much reminds me of the empowerment that women felt with Wonder Woman, but it's a much better movie.
Yeah,
Wonder Woman's fine by all means.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Exactly. It's a fine movie.
Wonder Woman was a solid, good film that the hype and aggressiveness built up around it made people see it like a 10. This is a 9 or 10 film on its own. That's
well said, Pi. Well said.
Yeah, I agree with Pi's sentiment more than Tiki's on Wonder Woman.
I'm saying the same thing.
But he phrases it
like Pi better than me.
No.
It's the accent.
No, that is not Pi. Come on. It's fine. He laid out exactly what I was really wanting to say.
All right.
He tapped into a lot better. Pi's better. Okay, so... No, I'm kidding. All right, so that's all she wrote, guys. That's the backstory.
Okay, so what about the plot?
All right, beware, folks. Spoilers are bound to this plot summary.
Of course.
You've now hit the barrier. Now there's no more non-spoiler talk. We're going to spoil the crap out of this, starting with the plot recap. Okay. All right. So here's the plot, folks, in a nutshell.
I'm crazy.
A little more to it than that, Tiki, but So here's the plot. So the movie takes place a week after Civil War. T'Challa is taking over the throne as the tribes contemplate sharing Wakanda's resources with the world. Claw resurfaces, which leads to an adventure in a South Korean casino to have him face judgment for his crimes against the utopia that is Wakanda. T'Challa bumps into his old CIA pal, Everett Ross, and during the interrogation with Claw's associate, Eric Killmonger, kidnaps him and presents Claw's corpse, again, folks, spoilers, presents Claw's corpse to Wakanda, revealing his parentage was to King T'Chaka's brother, N'Jobu. Killmonger challenges T'Challa for the throne, seemingly kills him, and chaos ensues in Wakanda until T'Challa's eventual return, which leads to a big revolution, battle between royal panthers. Ultimately, T'Challa decides to evolve Wakandan tradition and take the great nation public and share its long secret resources with the rest of the world. And that's the movie.
All right, so let's talk about the man who would be king. Of course, T'Challa is at the heart of the movie. I would say that this movie is kind of it's very heavy on T'Challa. It's light on Black Panther, but I like that about the movie, especially on a rewatch. It kind of reminds me of like a better version of something like The Dark Knight Rises. Not trying to slam Dark Knight Rises, but where really the Black Panther stuff is mostly at the very beginning and then, towards the end. But there's so much stuff in the middle of the movie building into the world of Black Panther and, Wakanda and the Wakanda politics and the different tribes and T'Challa and his reluctance to become a king. And I could go on. And Chadwick Boseman just does such a fantastic job of delivering the humanity behind this guy. And while he is regal, while he is very serious and intelligent, there's just such a warmth about this character at the same time that through this movie, he's honestly become one of my big favorite fixtures of the MCU. He's a huge fan favorite of mine now just because of the way he delivers himself in the performance.
Right. What's really... speaking to that, speaking to how we don't get how we get more T'Challa than we do Black Panther. You're right; those very much reflect on Boseman's acting capabilities. And what I really like about it is that I like that we get to know T'Challa beyond the cool kind of guest star factor. Like, again, it's kind of funny how it mirrors the comics, and I love how the MCU kind of does this, where Black Panther as a character started as a guest star in the Fantastic Four comics. We kind of have a foray into Black Panther's world through the initial, kind of like Fantastic Four wander into, the African jungle, and they kind of, they get taken out by this new very skilled warrior, and like, where are we? You're in Wakanda. That little thing. We kind of do that through Civil War. Like, okay, we get kind of a guest star introduction of Black Panther, see how cool he is, and we want to know more, and we do that. And in getting to know the guy more, we see he's a likable and relatable guy, despite being kind of a warrior king. Like the most unrelatable thing being truly, under the mask, under the title, under all the titles you give this guy. He's a guy who's mourning his father. That's what this film's about. He's a guy who's mourning his father that he felt that he failed. And he's trying to honor he's trying to honor a legacy whose philosophy he's in contact with. He's trying to honor a legacy and kind of a philosophy of Wakanda. Secrecy, keeping it all to ourselves, and he's in conflict with that while he's mourning his father. And again, he loves his father, he loves the celebration of Wakanda, but he just it's like if he's starting to question it at the worst time possible, which is kind of weighing more as a guilt on him. So there's a lot of great layers to T'Challa in this film.
Oh, yeah. I just loved how distinct he felt from other Marvel heroes, too. Like, a lot of Marvel heroes fall into the trap of being very quippy and jokey throughout the thing, and I like that. It helps make some really entertaining films. But even characters that I expected to be more serious, like Doctor Strange, are the same way. And Black Panther still has a few funny moments and all, but he's a very serious character, and he has this great presence about him where he's just feels imposing when he wants to. A lot of the time,
without being stubborn or like kind of like a typical, like an atypical king or anything. You know, he's open to change and compromise. He's a very competent leader. You buy this guy in a leadership position, but you know, as a king, he's dealing with the ethical compromises of being a king. So again, he's open to compromise if it helps, but not compromise that just like ethically is like the big thing he's really grappling with in this movie is, you know, he grew up with the wonders of Wakanda. And now he's realizing how the world needs Wakanda, and mainly through the villain of the piece. And again, we'll get to him more so when we get the villains. Again, like the great, you know, kind of parallel and juxtaposition we have, where he, you know, how Wakanda keeping their resources to themselves has hurt people, and you know, it's that T'Challa, he puts people before tradition, not over tradition, but before tradition. You know, he's not like saying, you know, screw our traditions. No, he's just saying, you know, he's looking at it from the, you know, the people we help, the people we deal with over, you know, you do it for Wakanda, you know, you do it, you know, you do it for the nation, do it because, you know, it's by law, you know, it's you know, it's tradition. Like, no, people, the reason we have traditions is to celebrate the people in our lives. So it's an uphill battle he goes through of remaining a good man while at the same time an effective king. That's his conflict in this film.
Oh yeah, it's such a great, interesting thing to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, now one of the things that I've kind of been skirting around, and the big issue for me, that like it's not necessarily an issue that I have with the character so much as, and of course spoilers here, folks, when Killmonger throws T'Challa off the side of the cliff and everyone's like, oh no, he's dead. It's like, that is the kind of like sort of bait and switch, like, oh look, we seemingly killed off the hero. It wouldn't bother me if we went such a long time, like I believe it's like a 20-minute stretch of the film where it's just like he's just gone from the movie. And it's just like, we all know, like everyone has seen that Infinity War trailer, like, get this man a shield, you know? It's
yeah.
like who the hell do they think they're fooling?
All right, two things, Steve, two things. One, I just want to point out for posterity's sake, I know not everyone's going to know this. I didn't even know it myself. I was looking into it. That whole thing is from the comic where, you know, someone else takes over the Black Panther. You basically, you know, someone dethrones him temporarily.
Look, I get the idea. I get that you have to get T'Challa out of the picture. You have to make it look like Killmonger killed him. My whole issue is that T'Challa just disappears from the movie for too long. Like, we could have easily had it be like a situation, like almost kind of like a really dark version of Toy Story, where, you know, like the characters on the other side think T'Challa's dead, but then we pan down and he's actually like, you know, like really far down the cliffs and he has to work his way back up or something like that. I don't know.
It really doesn't feel like, I don't think it's 20 minutes though, but you saw it a second time, Tiki. In a good consciousness.
I'm pretty sure it's about 20 minutes, Dragon. Really? I want to say it's a good chunk. Yeah, it's about half of the second act, I would want to say.
I'll go as far as to say this, Tiki. I do detect there is a pacing problem, but I will say this much. With the whole, like, you know, we take the child out of the equation and how we bring him back. My issue is that it's kind of like, it's kind of almost an untenable situation because he does have to be taken out of the equation. And again, it is kind of telegraphed, but it's something you kind of have to do for the sake of the story. And there's that question about how long do you keep him out so you kind of miss him versus I agree with your idea that, yeah, he should have been like, we should have, honestly, if we checked him with him once and we saw like a shot of what looks like a dead T'Challa, but we do see that later on though when we reveal how did he survive and we see the body being rained. If we had one shot, maybe that would have solved it. I don't know, but it's like, it's sort of like, it feels like an easy fix, but at the same time, it feels like we're cutting through a lot of the, well, you know, it feels like we don't have to wait through like a whole like healing your spine type thing. You know, it doesn't feel like, oh, we have to go through things before we can get him back in the action. So I kind of appreciate the brevity of the solution, and taking him out of the equation is just kind of a necessary evil to kind of get to this. I think they're kind of splitting the difference on all the various kind of ways that story could go wrong. So I think I'm just kind of meeting him in the middle on that.
Yeah, it didn't go horrible, but I agree that definitely felt too long without him. Either they could have cut down what was going on in that sequence between his death and coming back, or they could have had, like you're saying, a shot, or at the very least, have him be suspiciously absent from Infinity War trailers until after this movie comes out. Because then you'd have people speculating about what something happened to Black Panther? What's going on here? If you're going to do a bait and switch, do a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Don't put him as he says more in the trailers than anyone else.
I will say this
the trailer's all set in Wakanda, and he kind of has like the money line of the trailer with "Get this man a shield," and
yeah.
Let me say this though, with the bringing up the trailer, a big gripe I have, and again, it's not with the movie, but I feared this when it happened, and unfortunately, there's no way around it. And again, I hold it not against the film, because Marvel has this thing where their teaser trailers are amazing. They're always amazing. So far, Thor Ragnarok and this, they've been they get the theme music, they got like all the right footage and not giving anything away. Then they do that second trailer, and this is it's not as bad as Sony by any stretch. It's not the same as Spider-Man: Homecoming, how horribly kind of spoilery that got. But there was something that really bugged me, and I had a suspicion that we spoiled things in that. The first, trailer, not teaser, but little quote unquote trailer, and seeing Killmonger in the Panther suit, it's like that to me. That was a big, because again, we saw a shot of him just like looking and posing, and like a second later, you see it in that trailer. It's like, okay, so a moment after he struck that pose, hey, he's in a Black Panther suit, and you kind of telegraph and fill in the spaces when you see the movie about what's going to happen. Like, okay, yep, he's ascended the throne, so obviously he's going to get a Panther suit.
Yeah.
So just feel like I hate that was telegraphing the whole like the third act, like the battle, because again, that was a cool battle. It's just I wish like they're gonna be fighting each other around the vibranium monorail. Like, why did they have to put those two shots? Bugged the crap out of me in that show. I knew I had that suspicion that. And I distracted from it until like again. But even when I saw the movie, it's like, yeah, that's where I came from. That stupid, dumb trailer. And again, it's like you could avoid it.
I kind of had a similar thing with Spider-Man: Homecoming and the beach and the plane and everything.
Yeah, again, it's not as bad as like with Homecoming. I'm just saying again, it's like I wish they could have kept that a secret. The whole him in the suit would have been an awesome reveal.
Right.
Especially because a lot of people, until that trailer, at least as far as I know, thought Claw was going to be the main villain. So if they played up in the trailers that Claw was the main villain and had surprise Killmonger's the real main big bad, and now he has a Black Panther suit, that would have been incredible.
Yeah, and also like Claw's like his mining. Like they actually gave him the claw in this movie, and I hate that was also in that one of the trailers. Like that one or like the one after. They showed him firing the things. Like, come on.
Yeah, not that a big surprise. I saw Business hand in Ultron, but still.
I mean, we knew it was coming. We didn't see it in all its glory, though. It was like, I wanted like they teased like, oh, he shot someone with the good hand. Does he have the new awesome hand yet?
Yeah.
Anyway, so spoilers aside, you guys want to get into our supporting cast? Or is there anything you want to talk about? The king himself.
Yeah, by all means, supporting cast.
All right, boy, oh boy! I don't think there's a missed character. I don't think we have like a miss of any character within this one. I think we have strong characters all across the board.
I thought the love interest kind of started off strong and then got less and less exciting as the movie went on. Like, this is all, so I could have had a cut out in the movie.
Hey, Pi, I think you're getting a little echoey. Like, Dragon, do you hear that?
Yeah, you're sounding kind of like God now, Pi, and I don't think you want that.
Yeah, it started out subtle, but I think it's getting progressively worse.
It's like 10 Commandments over here.
Does this help at all?
I'm not sure.
Any better?
It's a little better, but it's still a little disconcerting.
What about this? Does this help at all?
Perhaps go out and come back in.
Yeah, I'll try that.
All
right. Okay.
Okay, so Dragon, I mentioned during the non-spoiler like first reactions thing. My God, the kick-ass women in this movie. And they're all kick-ass in their own separate ways. I think what Pi was saying was that Nakia, she starts out really interesting. I feel like as the movie goes on, she has a little less to do. And honestly, I gotta side with Pi on that. I sort of have to agree with that sentiment. I like Nakia as a character a lot. I just don't feel like her character was like, I don't want to say she was underwritten, but I don't really think her character was all that fleshed out either. Having said that, Denai Guerrera is Okoye, like just definitely one of the fiercest warriors we've seen in the MCU so far. I can't wait to see her get some head-to-head combat in with some of our like A-list Avengers characters. And of course, Dragon, the favorite between both of us, I think, is Lydia Wright as Shuri. I mean, Shuri is just such a fun, down-to-earth, like she's like the smartest person in the MCU, like literally the smartest person in the universe. And yet she's such a fun, bubbly personality who has her own quirks. She's got her own insecurities about her. I just think Shuri and, of course, her brother-sister dynamic with T'Challa, it's the heart of the movie for me.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part, too. My favorite character.
All Glover brothers. So, it's the... Sorry? Probably, do you want to say something about... You kind of missed out on some Nakia stuff. You want to get into any of the...
I don't really have much to say about her other than she's really, really cool. Yeah. Nakia's the love interest, right?
Yes. It's Lupita Nyong'o's character, yes.
So I get some names mixed up. Yeah, she starts off very strong in the movie and really interesting, but as the movie goes on, like, she gets less and less interesting the more I see of her. And it's not like she's bad or anything like that. It's just with how much everyone else stood out as being incredible, she kind of was the weak point for me.
Yeah, I think here's the thing with Nakia. I think on paper she look. I'll say this. I think she's a good character and she has a decent art. I would agree with you guys to a point where I think in comparison to the others, she kind of is. She's kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, but not in a bad way. Again, it's still like a solid totem pole. She's a war dog spy. He's thinking about all the cool stuff that kind of Nakia is kind of representative of the Wakandan culture. She's freeing enslaved Nigerian women as a spy in like another sect here. Where I can, I think it's kind of like the best comparison I have here, and this might explain why she's not going to light the world on fire. Is that she's still compared to this, I think she's a more fleshed out version of a Nala type character, like the old childhood love interest, but she's a little more fleshed out than she is.
Because she doesn't have that Grammy Award winning song attached to her, it's not going to catch the hearts and minds of people around the world.
How long do you think we get a Marvel movie that's a musical? I want that to happen now.
Good. Well, I love, she has this, her arc, I guess, in the movie is, she's kind of, it's like she's kind of questioning, like, her commitment to Wakanda and the throne, because, again, she wants to kind of be a war dog and kind of serving it, basically being a Wakandan spy on the outside world. She says, well, I can't stick around here, T'Challa, I'm support you 100%. Basically, her arc kind of takes her to becoming, as she is in the comic for a while, she is a member of the Dora Milaje, the kind of the secret service of Wakanda. I think they altered it from what it is in the comic. That's perfectly fine. I'm saying it's like my cell line for what the Dora Milaje was, where they were kind of they're the bodyguards, the kind of the highly trained warriors, but also the wives in training. Like they were training to be the Black Panther's, the Black Panther's wife, essentially. And they kind of deviated from that because, as we see with Okoye, she's involved in a relationship on the side. So again, that's perfully fine. I just wanted to kind of shout that. But the point is, the Dora Milaje is still like they're the awesome secret service.
The Dora Milaje, just in general, I feel like are just one of the freaking most cool parts of the whole movie for me. In terms of the world building, they're outstanding. They're just a great way to get that Wakanda culture in there, and you just instantly understand what they're about based on their their aesthetic and the way they carry themselves. It almost kind of reminds me of sort of how easy to understand stormtroopers are in Star Wars, just by looking at them and just by seeing the way they move, you know what I mean? It's like, it's very visually kinetic.
Yeah, and the last thing with Naki is, again, like, I think out of all of them, she, I guess, would best kind of encapsulate kind of the wife quality of the Dora Milaje, which is kind of what I was kind of hinting at too. Is that what I really like with her is she believes in T'Challa more than the title. She believes in like who wears the crown versus the crown itself, which seems to be kind of, that's the battle that we kind of see with some of our other favorites like Okoye. So Okoye, for example, she's the leader of the, she's the general, she's the leader of the Dora Milaje. She's the head guard and general to the throne. She's very love how she's very capable yet approachable. She's not like an imposing, like boring secret service.
She has a lot of good moments, like right at the beginning, like
don't freeze.
Thank you.
I loved her complaining about the wig she had to wear in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's tough yet fun, and I like, again, she has her own story on the side with with Wakabi, with the Daniel Kaluuya character, but more on momentarily. But yeah, I mean, I love how she basically is. She has an arc similar to T'Challa of learn. She has similar to T'Challa. She has an arc of learning. Of am I loyal to the people or am I loyal to Wakanda? And again, initially she's loyal to Wakanda. Like I got to honor the throne. That's my job. I like T'Challa, and I believe me, I want to help you guys. But no, I am service to the throne, whether I hate the king or not. I gotta serve the king. And she realized, like, oh my god, this guy's throwing all the rules out. And yeah, I should have gone with my gut on this. And again, she's investing in people over tradition. That's kind of her arc. That again, Naki, I guess, opens up for her. So Okoye, she's she's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Again, I do echo Tiki. In fact, we were again Shuri. I'm head over heels for Shuri as a character.
Stole the show. I mean, I think Shuri is like everyone's favorite new character now.
Oh, she's the best.
Yeah, and I can't wait for her to have a scene with Tony Stark and just see.
I know. I
want to see her school Tony Stark, and it'd be hilarious. Yeah, she brings the levity and the faith in her brother, and I love how we showcase, we showcase kind of she's like, if you had one character that represented Wakanda and all its best qualities, it's Shuri, because she represents kind of the wonder and potential of Wakanda. And that again, she builds all this stuff because she's bored.
Also, she kind of represents the new generation where it's not just like stuck in these rigid traditions. It's like she's not afraid to express herself and go outside the lines. And whereas some might see that as immaturity, it's definitely a way of kind of saying like, look, I'm me, and I'm not, just gonna stick blindly to all these traditions. Yeah,
like she questions new. Yeah, like she questions during the big waterfall battle. She's questioning, why do we even have this initiation? We all love the guy. He earned the throne. Let's give it to him. Let's not waste everyone's time here.
Oh yeah,
a bunch of dirty looks from the other tribes while she's saying that. But yeah, if you had one person to represent kind of the potential of Wakanda, someone who's just like, hey, like I'm building all this stuff because I'm bored, because we're keeping it all to ourselves here. Give me something to do. I built a little vibranium monorail here. Come on, give me a challenge, guys. She has that great philosophy of just because something's not broke doesn't mean we can't upgrade it. Which is a great philosophy.
Which is kind of why I feel like the MCU in general has been taking that as their philosophy, because they've been going strong since 2008, and yet they just keep getting better, even without. Yeah. There's not another cinematic universe or superhero universe that really serves as a competitor to them, and yet they still keep trying to top themselves.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would wager to say, like, this is an unpopular opinion, but this year, for me, on a personal level, Spider-Man Homecoming was a little bit on the disappointing side, but it's still a damn good movie. You know what I mean? Just to me, it didn't measure up to the first two Sam Raimi movies and all, but it's still, for what it is, it's a really, really good, fun movie.
It's tough for anything to measure up to the Sam Raimi.
Oh, I understand that. Basically, what I'm saying is that I kind of wish Homecoming had more pathos in that in it, but I digress.
I feel you. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
So, of course, short of Shuri, second favorite supporting character, I think, across the board would be Everett Ross. Everett Ross, played by the wonderful Martin Freeman. He's kind of
Everett Ross, I think, he's the big like dark horse surprise character. He's kind of the Yondu of this movie.
Well,
where
I was
he expects him to be a big presence, but he ends up kind of stealing the show in a way.
I remember going into this movie excited for Everett Ross because he's we had him in Civil War, and he's very much kind of the facilitator of the UN/CIA. Basically he's handling all the Wakandan politics, kind of going into like, okay, how do we handle it? Because again, he knows that he's the Black Panther, and that's something they don't want to get out. And what I love learning in this movie is that, okay, right off the bat, I love learning that Wakanda was more of a secret than we anticipated. I thought it was like known, but we learn in this case, no, it's not. It is not known that Wakanda has all this wonderful stuff, and he's very much kind of serves as not only kind of a confidant, kind of liaison, but he serves as sort of like a Jim Gordon for for Black Panther. I really like that. He has respect for the diplomat, and he's very diplomatic in his approach. He knows how to kind of court these situations, especially in kind of dealing with potential acts of terrorism with Killmonger. Oh, sorry, not Killmonger. He knows his stuff on Killmonger, which makes him a useful character. And I love that. But with Claw as well, and I love that he learns. I love, in his path of learning that Wakanda is more than like a third world country. He represents that connect to the outside world, and he also represents kind of a hope for a positive outreach. He kind of encapsulates what T'Challa hopes,
Absolutely,
reaching outside would bring about. And
I feel like his storyline throughout the film is very much kind of like an encapsulation of that, where it's like he reaches out, he goes out of his way to save a Wakanda citizen, a very important Wakanda citizen. And with that kind of shows T'Challa, like, look, okay, we need to really start changing our viewpoint on this, and it's one small step. But then, of course, Ross goes out of his way even further in one of the most heroic moments in any MCU movie, I think. And we'll get to that when we get to favorite moments. But yeah, just Ross all the way around, just really just great to shine the spotlight on him. And of course, it's definitely self-aware. They know that it's fucking Bilbo Baggins and Gollum in the same room together every time him and Claw share the screen.
Well, of course, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I love
white guys. Token spelled like J-O. Yeah, you get the joke.
Yeah, and I love that they. I love how they made fun of him, but he was made fun of, but he was not made a fool of. I like that. They had fun with with Everett Ross being with the the only two white characters in the movie.
They had that one really weird moment that kind of caught me off guard the first time, where the tribe starts just barking at him like dogs, but then rewatching it and then kind of seeing the humor behind it, I was like, right, that's still a little off, but I think it's off in the way that they like the tribe themselves are trying to joke around, and the joke is that the humor is off.
And you see that he kind of likes the guy too, and I love that.
Yeah.
Well, more on him momentarily, but yeah, I mean, Ross is just, and of course, my favorite thing with Ross in the movie, again, aside from just the fact that he is a trusted friend for T'Challa, again from the experience in Civil War, but mainly for he saved the woman, he saved Nakia, and also, he's more, again, he's a guy he's willing to compromise with, where Okoye, she's very much like, no, why do we beckon to this guy? Let's just take him and go. Let's take him and go. It's like, no, we gotta be diplomatic here. And he's playing, of course he's still gonna do what he wants, and that's the cool thing about their dynamic between T'Challa and Ross, is that like, hey, I'm gonna. I'll meet you in the middle here, but again, he makes his word, and of course, we know how powerful the word of the Black Panther is from Civil War. Where, hey, if he says he's going to do something, I'm going to kill your friend. I'm going to kill Bucky Barnes. I'm going to do what I'm going to say here. He's coming with us, and not for a moment do I doubt that the child would do that. But the pairing I love more so is the pairing between him and Shuri. Him and Shuri is just a winning pair, and I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
We say that he'll just do whatever we say he does, but he also didn't catch Bucky Barnes and then didn't Claw here.
He did get the guy who killed his father, though, with Zemo.
He did.
Zemo. I mean, he got the guy. He meant the other guy.
He got the guy eventually.
Yeah.
he just has that presence about him. Well, even if we haven't seen him succeed yet, so far, he just says something and you listen.
All right. Let's see. Well, here's a pivotal character in the movie, Zuri. I forget how the emphasis is on that, but Forrest Whitaker's character.
I wish the name was like less similar to Shuri.
I know, yeah. I think it's Zuri. Let's just call it Zuri just to be safe.
I think it's Zuri, yeah.
Forrest
Whitaker, like, look, honestly, I got to admit, this is pretty much like Saw Gerrera if Saw Gerrera was.
It is better than Saw Gerrera. Come on.
No, I'm saying it's Saw Gerrera. It's Saw Gerrera's potential dragon.
Okay.
Like Saw Gerrera's potential went into this character. All right.
Forrest, what? You don't have asthma this time. Okay, that makes it a lot easier to play.
Oh, God.
just going with what you're doing, Whitaker. You're doing an excellent job. We also did you know about this? We have the young version of Zuri in this movie, and he's played by a completely unrelated actor who also shares the last name Whitaker.
What's the actor dragon?
It's God, I know his last name's it's a different
I have it.
What?
It's Denzel Whitaker.
Oh yeah, Denzel Whitaker. Yes.
Which is great.
Love child between Forrest and Denzel Washington.
You know,
it's their love child.
Anyways.
Anyway, yes, but yeah, Zuri. I kind of equated Zuri to. I equate him more to like kind of an Alfred figure, but again, I think Tiki is definitely going to point out he's more of an Uncle Ben type,
or a Ben Kenobi type. At any rate, he's a Ben.
Sure. I love like the guilt and the burden that this guy has. Zuri is a guy who he definitely he bears.
That's why I kind of go to the Obi-Wan, because he's wise, but he's also seen a lot of shit.
I love that we didn't just like throw Forrest Whitaker in because why not? Hey, we have we have Angela Bassett playing Ramonda. We have Angela Bassett playing T'Challa's mom. Let's get Forrest Whitaker in there somewhere. Why? I don't care. Just get him in the movie. we couldn't get Wesley Snipes. Let's just get Forrest Whitaker in there. They'll balance us out. It'll be good karma. What do you say? But no, he was in there for a reason. And again, he did sacrifice himself, trying to save T'Challa's life during the big waterfall scene. And your heart went out to the guy who felt, in part, he feels that he cost T'Chaka his soul in a very important scene in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's a good character. I mean, it's a relatively small role, but with Forrest Whitaker being such a good actor, he brings so much to the couple of scenes he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking, you guys want to talk about T'Chaka a little bit, because he does show up in a very.
I don't have much to say. Of course, Dragon, you got some wish fulfillment that you'll talk about with your favorite moments regarding him. I do really like how his sort of Mufasa-style dream sequence is counteracted by Killmonger's dream sequence, and it's like I really love the depiction of the internal realm, but we'll get there probably in real building more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. You're right. He's seen as kind of as a Mufasa figure, but with demons. Demons that kind of question the morals of a king. And I love that we got the. I will say this much. I love that we got. I'll share the simpler, most likely half of my wish fulfillment that we did get. I just wanted the actor from Civil War to come back in some capacity. We got flashbacks, so right off the bat, I was like, "Oh, hey, look, we got him." So at least we got that actor. And then of course we actually did stuff with him when we went to the other plane, so that was additionally fun. But again, I love the I love that he put Wakanda before his family, and he did, and before his duty to his fellow man. He put the country before his own personal desires. And as I was echoing with Zuri, it kind of cost the guy his soul. He did some bad stuff, and he just kind of lumped it over. Well, it's the duties of being a king. And T'Challa's seeing this, and he's thinking, "No, this is horrible. I don't want to do any of this to another person. Like, what are we doing? What kind of culture are we celebrating here?"
Yeah, he was a good king first, a good man second.
Yeah. With what happens with T'Chaka, I will say this much. I think how many of you guys think I'm reading into too much into this? A part of me would like to think that T'Chaka, the moment he excommunicated his brother, that took the burden off of of what he did, of and how in killing his brother. It really took excommunicating that, like saying, okay, well now I feel that I can kill him. And I think that shows the difference between him and T'Challa there. Where, just by making him no longer Wakandan, he could do something like that.
Right.
And for me, I'll say this: this is a very minor gripe I had with the movie, but again, something they could always remedy in a sequel. But it was like something that always felt kind of missing from this movie. It felt bad that T'Chaka and T'Challa didn't like have a reconciliation, even if it was a small one. They didn't reconcile. They just had like their big kind of like I'm gonna go my own path, but they didn't really have like whole like there's no I'm sorry, there's no I respect what you're doing. It just feels kind of sad. Yeah. It's life, but it's I'm just saying like, oh, it's a shame they didn't patch things up somewhat.
All right. So I think we need one more character to get through.
Oh yeah, W'Kabi.
Get out. So this is a tricky character for me because it's like I like the dynamic he has with T'Challa. It feels like he's kind of like a brother in arms, if you will. But I feel like this guy turns on T'Challa way too fast. Like, he turns on T'Challa, like, halfway into the movie before Killmonger even shows up. You know what it's like, this is, like, the first guy to, like, really... Basically, all W'Kabi's fault is what I'm trying to say.
I'm with you there, Tika, 100%. That W'Kabi, I think Kulu was likable when he showed up. There was a good implied friendship right off the bat. But yeah, honestly, Tika, it feels very much like a how it should have ended like gag. It feels very much because here I can imagine how it should have ended doing a joke on this because W'Kabi, my biggest gripe I have against the movie, I guess, is that he's really harsh on T'Challa, considering that we're like the scene we're missing that we're probably gonna get like in how it should have ended is the scene between T'Challa and W'Kabi, because W'Kabi's all down on him because like, hey, you promised you wouldn't come back here unless you had killed or brought back Claw, and then of course Killmonger is gonna bring back the corpse of Claw, and I just feel like there's a scene when when he shows up, in the chamber with the 5 tribes of T'Challa just saying, "Well, I did catch him, but this guy kidnapped him. I had him. I was gonna bring him back. This guy stole him from me. I don't think because he was wearing a mask, I couldn't. He's wearing the same exact outfit. He took the guy. I had him. I did my W'Kabi. Why are you siding with this? I brought him back alive. That's even better."
Yeah.
So it's like my one gripe, like W'Kabi, why? And then he had that moment of like change, but again, I did like ultimately got chewed out by the I guess fiance. I don't know exactly where Okoye. They loved each other. By the girlfriend, essentially, like, she chewed him out. And I feel like that we didn't have to kill him, but I like that we at least W'Kabi is somewhat redeemed, somewhat.
Yeah, he's one of the few characters that felt. Like, this is a very complex movie. There's a lot of characters and plots going on here. And he's one of the characters with his story that I felt kind of got lost in the shuffle. But like you said, it feels like it's missing. But it's just like he probably like, oh yeah, it's there.
Foundation for him, but they didn't really have enough screen time to like flesh it out. So really what we're left with is just kind of like the bare bones of a story arc.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's just not developed anywhere as much as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
This felt like something that could have been cut out, just his story entirely, and focused more on other things.
I think it was them just getting excited, like, "Hey, we got Daniel Kaluuya." It feels like the Forrest Whitaker thing I was joking about. It just feels like more like, "Hey, we got Daniel Kaluuya. Let's give him a nice partner. Let's give him kind of like the friend role, but we'll give him like something to do. Like, hey, kind of."
Yeah, okay, Dragon. I will admit that you're not stretching with.
Okay, what's a big movie this year? Get Out. Yeah, we like that guy. Let's put him in there.
All right, so shall we transition into villains?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, naturally, we have to talk about,
guy who he's kind of in the middle between villain and supporting character.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just completely blanking on his name.
Baku, man-ape. Umbaku.
Umbaku. Oh my god. Okay,
Which
Umbaku
translates to
is
man-ape.
this guy. He really shined for me on a rewatch of the movie, I've got to admit. My first watch of the movie, it felt like it was like, okay, like I really want to get to Killmonger. This guy seems like he's just sort of like kind of slowing down the proceedings. This fight scene is a little repetitive because I know we're gonna get a fight scene similar to this with Killmonger. Having said that, like I will say that I think his fight scene with T'Challa is it's not one of the more memorable. It's not bad, but it's just not necessarily edge of your seat by any stretch in terms of an action scene in this movie. Just I love this guy's subtle arc, and I love the way that visually you see it go down almost in the background, where by the end of the movie he's with the council with everyone else. You know what I mean? He's kind of joined in T'Challa's inner circle, and I love that we get that tiny little thing, through very little dialogue, and naturally the guy's intimidation factor is just through the roof. I love his the howling and the animalistic qualities to him. Very much kind of the Game of Thrones type character, as Pi would like to, as Pi pointed out. So this guy was a highlight for me, and like I said, maybe not so much the first time I saw it, but second time I watched the film, like really when I can like sit down and be like not have to worry so much about like getting to Killmonger fast enough or anything like that. Yeah, this guy really was a lot of fun.
So yeah, man-ape. Here's the thing. So man-ape. I'm sorry. What was I saying? Yeah. So the thing with man-ape is that I love how we add dimension to what essentially is going to the movie. I knew this much about man-ape. I didn't know a whole lot about. I learned some last minute stuff about Black Panther. I didn't know with the whole kind of the power set, which does play into this movie very well. And we'll get to that with world building, but. The things I did know about him is that he had an initiation to become the Black Panther / become the king, in that he faced Man-Ape in the comics, and that's really all Man-Ape really was. He was just he fought this guy to challenge him for the throne. Then Man-Ape was he kind of had a grudge about it, like, hey, I was supposed to get the throne. He fights him from that point on in the giant white gorilla costume. And they toned that down. I remember in the trailer just seeing him just that much I knew about Man-Ape. Just seeing, I was really excited to see. Oh man, what are they going to do with Man-Ape? Because like that's that's the only, aside from Claw, that's the only Black Panther bad guy I know going into this thing. And it was nice that we added dimension to like a very much a one-shot villain who, even in a one-shot capacity, he did his job and demonstrates what the big initiation ceremony is, which has always been his role. But we did more with him here, which made him even better. So
he is kind of the guy who saves the day at the end. Really, like he's a big contributing factor, and that's actually a cool thing to note about the supporting players in general throughout the movie is. A lot of them have save the day moments where it just wouldn't have gone off without them being where they were.
Yeah.
And again, he had that. I love that he had that room to grow with. It's like, we could just have him like be a guy with a grudge who comes back and helps the backup. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to take a different route with him. We're going to make him more interesting, more memorable to people. Essentially, I would argue he's more of a Yondu. Tiki. This guy feels much more like a Yondu.
I would definitely say he's. I would say Martin Freeman is still Yondu in terms of like personality-wise. This guy's much more on the Yondu spectrum. Martin Freeman is kind of like, I didn't expect Martin Freeman to get a ton of screen time, and he was all over the movie, so that's why I don't know.
Well, he had a sense of humor. He had like an honor despite his ego in battle. And we saw his ego in battle with the whole with all the basically making ape sounds in the battle with the mask. And he represents the mountain tribe of the Wakandans, and he's. And I love that he had respect for like these little details. I love with Mana, which made him love him even more. Where I love that he had respect for T'Challa's mother. No problem. We don't even have to make a deal, and I will safeguard your mother, no problem. And well, at the same time, speaking of Everett Ross, while he made fun of him, and he kind of terrified him, I will feed you to my children. I'm just kidding. They're vegetarians. that old thing. He's looking at him while the scene's going on. He's giving him a look like, this guy. He amuses me. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Man-Ape's point is valid. And again, I love how our points with a lot of these characters are valid and contributing to T'Challa's arc, where his point is essentially way in the beginning. The reason he doesn't side with Wakanda is essentially the arc that T'Challa goes on. His point, while they still exaggerate it, is that Wakanda needs to change. That we need to, we need to be more conscious. We need to move forward. It's that thing. We have to have a conscience to move forward. And essentially, that's just this kind of a more basic version of what T'Challa is kind of learning firsthand of like the kind of the sin that Wakanda had on its hands in its past from being secret.
Yeah, you get that nice parallel with Killmonger there too, because M'Baku is the type of person where he has issues with how Wakanda's been run and sins of the past. But
it's never too late.
Yeah. He learns to grow from that and accepts that Wakanda can change and eventually joins Black Panther. Whereas Killmonger is like, nah, we're just gonna kill everyone who's ever wronged us.
Yeah, it's revenge versus growth. That's kind of where you come down, Killmonger and Man-Ape. Before we talk, I'm sorry, I don't want to just transition us here. You got anything else we want to really kind of hit with Man-Ape?
Not really. Just like I said, on a rewatch, he's definitely a lot of fun. There's a lot of really subtle moments with him that I think you'll like on a rewatch, Dragon.
Oh, sure. I'm looking forward to it. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, the sometimes Caesar on his off time. Let's talk about Ulysses Klaue.
So I love that with Klaue, basically Andy Serkis has spent an entire career, like, I want to emphasize, it's not just behind the mocap suits. It's the fact that he's playing other creatures. He's playing different species. He played a gorilla. He played an ape. He played Gollum. And so, crazy guy. I can just imagine Ryan Coogler just being like, all right, Michael, look, like we need to kind of talk this through. We need to give you a lot of preparation. All right, this is going to be a difficult scene for you, Michael. Andy, you're here to have fun. All right, you're here to have fun. Have you got liquored up beforehand, Andy? If not, I recommend you do so.
I love how they continue everything. Serkis is wonderful in this role, and he always has been. Because again, Tegan and I remarked with Age of Ultron, our favorite scene, at least my favorite scene. I think TK agrees with me on it. I love, when Klaue gets his arm cut off, and Ultron's very legitimately apologetic for it. Like, oh, that's bad. I'm sorry, but seriously, even up as much as that overshadows what I also like about Klaue. I love that moment, but. Klaue, he's a businessman who has fun with the job. Like, he'll bring up random things like, I saw a documentary on cuttlefish. It was terrifying. He's very random. He's like the fun random arms dealer.
Laughing. I was one of those people who was laughing in the theater when he brought up the SoundCloud thing to Martin Freeman. I was laughing so hard.
I want them to release his mixtape now.
Just the next joke.
I mean, he is very much a crazy version of Tony Stark's eccentricities. Because again, just considering that he's an arms dealer, and he's very much just kind of a guy who's essentially, I guess the best comparison is I've always loved the line in the trailer and how it factors into the movie here, and I guess kind of way of looking at Klaue. He's Cortez who's searching for El Dorado, who found El Dorado, but no one believes him. He's more like Zekel Khan from the animated movie El Dorado, being like, what if we checked in with Zekel Khan from El Dorado? Well, yeah, he'd be looked at as a crazy man. Like, hey, I saw paradise, I stole from it. Oh yeah, sure. But I mean, Klaue, he's fun and he's jovial at what he does, and that's always a quality I love in my characters. Again, half the reason I love
And just to speak to Klaue, kind of getting into Killmonger, I thought the way they used Klaue in the story, and he had a perfect amount of screen time, he had a perfect amount of jokes, he had a perfect amount of comic relief, and then they dispose of him at the exact time where the story really needs to ramp up into high gear. And I honestly think he might be one of the most satisfying MCU deaths, just in terms of, obviously not an emotional death, but something that just really turns the tide of the story of the film. Something that, like, again, the film couldn't happen without him going out the way he does.
Yeah, let me. I full-heartedly agree with you, T, because here's the thing: it's heartbreaking that I felt sad that Klaue died because I loved them so much, and we had some great fun moments, like in the beginning where he shoots the he shoots the guy. And says,
hey, come here, I'm gonna let you go, but just don't tell anyone, okay?
It's a fantastic moment. I love Claw so much in this movie. I made it rain. He's having so much fun. But at the same, and again, when he got killed off, and like when the body bag shows up, it's like, oh man. But at Tiki, I agree full heartedly though. While it does bum me out, I realize, yeah, I get it though. He needed to die, otherwise the whole plot doesn't make sense. He's a loose thread. He needs to die for Killmonger's scheme where he needs. And here's the thing though. I love that. It's a shame he died, but it was necessary, and importantly, they did pay off his arc. We did everything we really needed to do with Claw. He faces off against Black Panther, which we teased in Ultron and everything else. He had a big action, and we gave him the sonic arm cannon, which he has in the comic. We did all the stuff we needed to with Claw, so logically, it's a satisfying end for those reasons. We did everything we needed to, and it helped the story. So it's satisfying, but sad.
And that leads us into Killmonger, and I like... Honestly, I think Killmonger, he's not just like the best MCU villain. I think he's kind of I don't want to say he's up there with Heath Ledger Joker just yet, but he's kind of in a class of his own when you compare him to any other MCU villain. I've heard some people say they like Loki better, and I just think that those people Loki, first of all, has had 3 films to develop, and the person that he's developed into is kind of a walking meme at this point. Loki was never even half as intimidating as Killmonger was, and Loki was maybe as sympathetic as Killmonger was at certain points, but my God, like, Killmonger is just such a ridiculous mix of cunning and chilling, intelligent execution of plans mixed with absolute sympathy and humanity. And Michael B. Jordan, I don't know, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm kind of leaning into, like, yeah, it is sort of like, it's not as flashy as Heath Ledger Joker, it's not as iconic of a character as Heath Ledger Joker, but I think in terms of the performance, like, Michael B. Jordan just digs so deep into it.
Let me say this. Sorry. Yeah, let me say this about Killmonger though. Tiki, I agree with you to a point. I'll say, for me with Killmonger, I think he's like might be the best written Marvel villain. I don't necessarily think he's the not counting the Netflix stuff, of course, not counting the Netflix stuff. I think
certainly not for me either. I mean, that's 13 episodes worth of material, obviously.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare. That's why we kind of leave Netflix off the villains of all time, if you will. But the point I think Killmonger is less that he was, he's like I think there's a difference between performance. Well, again, he's subtle, and it's a very solid performance, and it complements the writing very well. I think he's like probably the best plot and best written of the Marvel villains in terms of, like, what we do with him, the backstory and everything. I feel it's less in the performance, which again complements it well. I don't think that necessarily. I think it's kind of like a different sort of thing. But again, he parallels T'Challa so well. Again, the writing on Killmonger is fascinating to me. That's the kind of stuff where I'll go as far as to say this: the way we parallel him with T'Challa, I feel, is similar to like a great parallel between our Netflix villains and how we parallel them with our heroes for that season, which again, that's cramming like a 13 episode arc into a 2-hour movie, which is impressive in that regard. Again, in terms of kind of writing on our characters, I'll go as far as to say that on Killmonger, he's plotted as well as a Netflix kind of dichotomy you have with characters there. So
really, when you break down the scenes that Killmonger and Black Panther actually have together, it's really just the first fight and the last fight, you know what I mean? It's like Killmonger just kind of shows up out of nowhere, just throws T'Challa off the side of the cliff, and really it's just kind of like not till the finale that the two kind of come head to head together again. But it's just all that time in between, and everything we know about Killmonger as a character and as a person, and all the flashback stuff that we got. It just all works so wonderfully. And of course, Killmonger is he's chillingly intelligent, like I said. And one of the things that makes that claw death work so well is just like, I'm always a fan of a good villain plot that's like really well laid out, really well thought out. And the whole claw being used as human bait, basically being used as like the ultimate pawn in a long con. That just tickled me. I mean, that was just such a great kind of like cunning, like, move in a game of human chess, if you will. And right from the get-go, I love how Killmonger, kind of like exuberating that suave kind of, slightly suave, slightly dangerous persona in the art gallery sequence, and it just moves on from there. It just blossoms, and by the end of the movie, I gotta say, watching it both times, I'm genuinely just like, does this guy have to die? Like, I really don't want this guy to die. This guy doesn't deserve to die.
But it still feels like a very it feels like a satisfying death too.
It's a satisfying death because of what T'Challa does to it. You know, the moment where T'Challa takes him up to see that view of Wakanda that his father promised him. That's what sells it for sure. But I still get that air of pity about him. And obviously, I don't think this is a slight on the movie at all. As a matter of fact, I feel like this is very much in Ryan Coogler's wheelhouse of Fruitvale Station. We know the ending of that story. It's inevitable, and the whole movie kind of leads up to that. And I feel like Killmonger kind of course, both of them being Michael B. Jordan characters, ironically enough, Killmonger kind of has a similar fate to Oscar Grant, where really his unfortune was just being in the wrong place
the fate
in
of his
the wrong
father.
time. Yeah.
I mean, he suffers. He also suffers the fate of his father, which is also equally poetic. The death by a panther's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his knife, but still.
I'm sorry. There's so much unpacked with Killmonger, and a lot of the brilliance of the writing can be traced right down to Killmonger in terms of how much they got right, because you have. With that parallel that really that echoes between him and T'Challa, it's the strength of the movie. And again, those characters, as T said, they only share 2 scenes together. But again, everything else is what we telegraph from the storytelling of this film. Where looking into Killmonger's past, he grew up in a country that is what Wakanda pretends to be. But compared to Wakanda, he grew up, in America as it is what essentially is a third world country. Like compared to Wakanda, we live in a third world country. Yeah. Definitely, at the very least, that's how Eric is.
I've got to admit, Dragon, there are some things like some socio-political conversations we could be getting into with some of the stuff with Killmonger that I'm kind of
well, I'm just hitting the surface of that. So
for the Black Panther History Month podcast.
Yeah.
Sure. Right, we'll hit just kind of the rock surface of it, but yeah, as looking at the birthright, it's really fascinating. So the birthright is that and that's all the sympathy of Eric really comes into play, where his birthright was to just see Wakanda one day. And what is it? Was this kid?
Like I said, by the end of the movie, you feel genuinely pissed that things had to go down this way. And so that's the mark of Ryan Coogler's storytelling. Is Ryan Coogler gets you so emotionally invested that you're almost kind of like clenching your knuckles. You're so gripped at what's going on. And certainly it's not to the same extent as Fruitvale Station, because Fruitvale Station just takes your heart and stomps on it and then spits on it and then fries it up in a frying pan, and it's like, here, eat your heart. But that's what Fruitvale Station does.
That's the hat trick of it all, though, T. We just hit upon that again. Like our fists are clenching in that moment, and that fist clenching sensation. That's us being in T'Challa's head over hating what the situation that just occurred. Because again, T'Challa hates
exactly
the situation. Went to that place. Again, he's trying to make up for kind of the sins of Wakanda in that moment. And again, the birthright of it all, where it all boils down to, where we leave. Killmonger's that he's just the guy who wanted to see. It was as a boy he was told about this wondrous utopia. And it's like you can see it one day. You can see the essentially a vibranium El Dorado, and he's left with a dead father in a world where he knew there was something better out there. That's like when he finds his father. That's the feeling that that he is experiencing in that moment. Like, I'm never going to see Wakanda, and he's living in a society where he is deprived of Wakanda's resources, and knowing there's something better, and is living in a world where, again, the world could be better. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to live with it doesn't have to be so one-sided. I could speak to the museum scene. We'll table that for other stuff, but
yeah,
he's just he's the embittered king, and it's funny if you look at the rule of the difference in ruler of why am I saying rulership of the difference in ruling style is that he's the embittered king showing cruelty, but at the same time, while he's a cruel king, he is showing a smart approach from a power setting. 'Cause think about it. He burns the crop, so there's going to be no one to challenge his throne, no one to challenge his power. He evolves and expands the culture, which ties into a theme with all three of our villains, even though one of them is kind of a half-sea villain. But all three of them do agree on one philosophy that Wakanda is kind of, it's wrapped up, especially Claw, is that Wakanda does have a hypocrisy about its ideas, and that's what kind of the idea that Wakanda is.
I feel like it's not just the villains who state that. I feel like the whole hypocrisy is just kind of like it's woven into the geopolitical climate of Wakanda's world building in a way.
It is, but the cool thing about with Claw is that he's calling it on the hypocrisy, and that's like all of his actions. While again, are to get rich, is that hey, I'm the only guy who knows because I've been there that knows about this vibranium. No one's going to believe me because I'm a criminal, but at the same time, it
exists. Crazy.
Exactly, but it kind of adds another level to his crimes, and I think that's why Killmonger and the hat trick we pull with those two is that again initially we're thinking Eric is just he's working with or for Claw, and we reveal no, it's again the whole pawn thing, and again it's because I think the reason he gravitated towards Claw, you could question, is he like as a true Wakandan, is he like killing a guy who's misappropriating the resources, or does he very likely just agree with this guy calling them on their hypocrisy, and that's why he steals from them, because if they're not sharing with the world, like he's the guy who's trying to share it with the world, which is what Killmonger wants to do. He wants to share it with the world, only less to get rich quick, more to better the world. So again, he's a villain with purpose, which fits kind of that great Marvel villain philosophy of hey, like villains who don't see themselves as the bad guys. He sees himself as helping the world, but at its core, though, he is driven by revenge. So it's like, I'm going to share Wakanda's, wealth with the world, but their wealth through their weapons. Wealth not through their outreach, but through the outreach of their arms. Let's turn the tides. Let's make the world like Wakanda, but at the cost of people who are innocents in that power and how that power structure just got built up from the beginning.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly well written. Like anytime you have a good villain, you should almost want to side with him because a lot of things he's saying, he's right, but then he goes too far with them. A good villain is someone who has been corrupted. They have good ideas. They're not just, haha, I want to be evil. He has good intentions. He just takes them too far, crosses too many lines to make them happen. He wants almost the same thing Black Panther winds up doing, to see Wakanda grow and to start helping people.
It's really all about the execution. It's really all about like the way he's going about doing things that makes him a quote. And again, he's one of those great characters where it's like, in spite of him killing a few folks along the way, and us not being able to get in line with that, it really does kind of become a geopolitical question of how many lives is worth, this life-changing thing that could go out to so many people.
Yeah, there's definitely a level of, he was, the world made him embittered because, the reason he was traumatized, that hatred that built up is because, he was kind of cut off from the source. Wakanda just needed, T'Chaka made a very, very bad mistake, and that the only thing that could have saved this kid after killing his father is teaching him about his true heritage, getting him what he wanted, like the dream he forged with his father to see Wakanda, show him Wakanda, make him understand why you had to kill his father, but instead leave him behind. We need to keep Wakanda secret, and in doing so, we're stuck in the past, and so is this kid, and him being stuck in the past is going to turn him into a monster. It's going to threaten our culture.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't say he was a good guy, but he had good intentions. It's understandable how he turned out that way. He just took things way too far with it.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, because I don't know how we're going to be able to work it otherwise. With Killmonger too, like, we have the cool thing again in the trailer. I had no idea how this. I assumed this is like a feature of the suit, but it wasn't. He had all the bumps on his skin, basically representing all the kills that he's
kind
done.
Of very Victor Zsasz-esque.
I know. It was fascinating because I just thought that was like it was like an invisible feature of the suit or something.
Right.
When I saw it in the trails, after I saw like they explained, oh, okay, that's what the suit is. Okay, but no, it's he put those bumps on it, again represents kind of the anger and the injustice of the world. He became like the peak Wakandan warrior by taking part in other wars and other battles and just in other killings.
Yeah.
And he wears it very literally, very painfully on his sleeve.
Okay, so let's advance to Wakanda and the world building and the technology. I feel like in terms of the geopolitical side of things, we've already spent a lot of time talking about sort of they're a closed off country, right? They're an isolated state. They take very extreme paths to make it that way, and I feel like that's very interesting in terms of Wakanda as a place, and also just kind of like the philosophy of Wakanda, as we mentioned. Just the whole philosophy throughout the movie kind of opens up, and we see the benefits of the outreach programs, and I really like that. I really like that it's almost kind of like an educational journey through the character's eyes.
Yeah, I tell you what I really love, and I read this somewhere. I mean, it's definitely implied in the movie, but I love just knowing this because it makes the cover story even more better. It's the idea that Wakanda was seen as a third world facade. The world knows Wakanda as the third world the country, but what's great is that the idea is their respect. Wakanda is so respected, like whenever they come to the UN, it's more of like the world sees that as like a service. Like, oh boy, these guys. They're humble. Let's welcome them. These guys. They're sharing their cultures. We can help them. And the reason Wakanda is so respected and so under the radar is because any other place that is offering support, offering resources, Wakanda turns them down. Like, oh man, they're too proud. And of course, reality, they don't need anything.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the suggestion of that whole third world cover stories. That's why Wakanda's like they can fly under the radar without having a lot of hassle.
And you got to admit, Dragon, there is some emotional manipulation going on there. I mean, God, again, there's some really interesting politics to be, and I'm not saying politics in terms of like, oh, it's an all black cast, and if you don't like this movie, you're racist. I'm not saying those types of politics at all. I'm saying like really interesting, like nitty gritty, like, debate about this kind of stuff for hours kind of politics that this movie sets forward, and kind of has you think about and question as you're watching along with it. And in that way, I just think it, like, that's why I have it slightly above Winter Soldier, because Winter Soldier is a great political thriller in its own right, but I feel like this is it's an epic. This is like like it almost kind of reminds me of something like a Francis Ford Coppola movie or something like that, where the politics just weave its way through the entire narrative in such an interesting and forward-thinking way.
Yeah. I love I love learning more and more about Wakanda in this movie, and again, it kind of makes me, definitely more interested in the comics as well. I mean, I know the only thing Black Panther I've really read in the comics was a really great run. I hope there's more because I'll track it down after this, especially the John Romita Jr. run on Black Panther is really good. It looks great. That's the thing they did the motion comic of, if anyone's familiar. That's one with the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, Damon Hansu, the guy who. Yeah, that's the one that he did. He played T'Challa in that in the motion comic. That's the one I'm talking about. If anyone's curious. Anyway, what I love here in the comics, there are 18 different tribes. I like how they limit it to 5. I love the simplicity of this, and it all makes sense, even just in the title alone. There are 5 tribes. The way it works, we have the Panther tribe, who believe in the Panther god. The Border tribe, and that's essentially those are our Secret Service guys. That's his friend from earlier, and Okoye. They come from the Border tribe, the protection side of Wakanda. Basically, guys who monitor the shield, the giant shield, and like all the train the warriors. The River tribe, that's the Lip Lake guy. And there's the mining. I tried looking up his name, and they still have not updated. Like they haven't revealed his name. I just call him Lip Plate Guy. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dragon. I'm glad that you bring that up, because Lip Plate Guy, I feel like that's just proverbially gonna be his name. It's just it's just lovingly going to be Lip Plate Guy.
But you know what's funny about
Yeah.
Lip Plate Guy? I don't know if you guys noticed this. Tiki, on the rewatch, I hope you noticed this, that it's kind of funny. I was joking with my friends with this after I saw the movie. Like, we were all huddled around, like, talking kind of like in the corner so we didn't spoil it for anyone else. We were just kind of like talking like all the stuff. And we kind of noticed that Lip Plate Guy, because again, this is what we also call him, because why not? Lip Plate Guy is like, he's the guy who had the initiative to ask the like when Killmonger's coming there making his declaration, like, hey, I'm essentially, and also we should probably talk about that a little bit, that he's also related to T'Challa, by the way. He's his cousin. He's the son of, the brother who was killed, his son. That's how he got in, because he had the ring to prove this, and he had the tattoo that the father gave him, the Nujobu. The one guy in that meeting of the 5 tribes I believe he's the river tribe. He might be mining. I'm pretty sure he's river, because you have river, mining, and mountain. Again, mountains are man-ape. That's mountain. The point is, Lip Plate Guy. He's the bearer of bad. He's the guy who has the guts in the room to say, "Wait, who are you?" He's the guy out of all of them who's saying, "Wait, who are you?" Like, they're all saying, dismiss this guy.
And then that leads to like Killmonger's dramatic like speech, his declaration.
And the gag, I guess I'm getting is that it feels like Lip Plate Guy, he's the initiated guy in the room to like deliver the bad news. Because if it's coming, at least it's coming from Lip Plate Guy, so the bad news is going to be de-escalated a little bit. Like, give it to Lip Plate Guy. He'll ease the tension in the room. Like, have him like deliver like the big dramatic stuff. It's like it's an unspoken initiation amongst the room. Like, who delivers the bad news to the king? Lip Plate Guy. Who delivers the hard hitting questions? Lip Plate Guy. God. Anyway, Lip Plate Guy aside, so again, I love how each of these, the river essentially is where the waterfall sequence happens. We have the mining is, of course, where a big climax happens, and the mountain is where T'Challa comes back to life. So again, I love how each of these sections is boiled down to a certain tribe, and again, I love how that's kind of set up in the beginning and how that all pays off. So again, the tribal system, and the King of Wakanda is kind of the guy overseeing all of this. So it all melds together very well. So the world building is fascinating.
It does, and it's an experience to watch. I'll say that much. Like, with all the extras, all the costuming, this movie better get some attention at the Oscars for some of the technical stuff. Like, I would say specifically costume and production design.
It has to get. I'm going to be insulted if it doesn't get production design.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned, the Kirby simplicity from a distance, kind of tribal build from a distance. You come up close, it's like, oh my god, it's a silver El Dorado up close, and I thought, it's amazing.
Oh.
So let's see. So I guess we can just kind of fire into. War Dogs, of course, we have as a spies, and we already spoke to the Dora Milaje. I'm saying those are the other two kind of tribal, the other kind of things about Wakanda as a whole to really talk about. They have spies all across the globe, and that's cool. That's a cool idea how they keep in touch, in secret before they go public.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my god, I was drooling at all the gadgets and the technology and learning about.
I mean, there's one scene in particular where it's just kind of like, it's almost kind of like Shuri's Carousel of Progress in a way, where it's like, hey, check out all this cool stuff.
I guess the place to start for me. So my favorite line in this movie, just for me, is the gadget nut that I am. There's a line that had character and had personality with a piece of technology, and I loved it so much. And it's the suit upgrades. I love the scene where you have the suit upgrades, and this feels out of all the scenes, this feels the most kind of Glover-esque in terms of, like, it's kind of fun, it's kind of light, demonstrating the kinetic absorption factor of vibranium, that whole thing. She being like kind of a jovial sister. She's recording it as he's gonna fall on his butt when he kicks the.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's what I love about it. So the line I love is not in that part. It's right before it. It's basically when she starts her line about her philosophy of the whole, like, if something's not broke, doesn't mean we can't improve it. The thing that makes her say that is that we see the suit from honestly, it's the image we have before us on the right. You'll notice the original suit that we saw in Civil War. We all kind of fell in love with, and that's still my favorite for this reason. For a line they have in the movie is that. The idea is that every Black Panther, I assume every Black Panther, but particularly T'Challa, he made that suit. He made that vibranium suit. So that's like, it's a very personal thing. He made that. The helmet. That's why he's very familiar. He likes it. That's why he's wearing in that earlier sequence before the upgrades. He put his heart. The idea that every Black Panther makes their own suit is, it's cool, and I kind of like that design. The new design's fine. I love every technical thing about it. It's just the other one. I have like a preference for it. But yeah, the upgrades are great, and these are the things that make Tony Stark drool. How we have is the necklace that you tap it. It's like the most. It's like way better than a briefcase than than putting it in a helicopter. It's like the thing Tony Stark would drool over if you could just like tap the necklace and you had the whole suit form around you.
It looks like he starts to have that in the Infinity War trailer, but still, it's incredible to see it here.
Absolutely, it's just again these upgrades are very logical and they're great. And what's cool is with the vibranium. I love all the new stuff we learned about vibranium too. Is that the thing we incorporate in this suit? And again, I learned a few last minute things about like that Black Panther for the movie. And two things I learned: one is specifically how the vibranium absorption rate goes. So traditionally, vibranium it absorbs vibrations, hence the vibranium name. And that's what we saw with Captain America. Like, he could survive a fall if he landed on the shield because it would absorb the impact. But in the comics, when you think Black Panther gets hit by a bullet and it's a bulletproof suit, the original one that we saw was a bulletproof suit. However, this one does what it does in the comic, where it actually it doesn't just deflect bullets; it absorbs the kinetic energy from the bullets, which is why the purple tribal markings on the suit light up and you can expel that power. So I love that we kind of incorporate a comic element of the suit, but also worked it in as an upgrade. And I love visually how it's kind of like the more tribal markings, like the more purple lines they has on the suit, which you can tell in the molding of that are like tribal inscriptions. They show like it's like he's more spiritually in tune with what Wakanda is, visually, symbolically, is like when he absorbs all that, all the kinetic energy. It's awesome.
It works as like a great visual and a great leads to some of the coolest moments in the combat where he just kind of like done here and discharges that energy and knocks people away.
The vibranium flower too. So I'm sorry, not the vibranium, the heart flowers. The heart flowers is the thing I learned about that the Black Panther actually had powers and how he could actually. That's why he could run that fast in Civil War, and that's why he has peak physical strength and everything. And I love how not only did we just address it, because I was just hoping they were going to address it. But it was a whole fixture of the plot where it's ceremonially you can take that flower, and we did kind of like almost like a Superman 2 thing where we take away the powers by give him like a little draining thing. You give him give him a drink of something, and basically it drains him of that power, and then you just go through the ceremony again where he eats the heart flower and he gains the powers of the Black Panther. And the history behind that it's the irradiated vibranium in the soil gave us the heart flower. That's fascinating. I love that we kind of explain the magic on that one.
I like personally that he got his powers the same way Rapunzel from Tangled did.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah, he did kind of. Only he doesn't have to sing a song.
If they ever do make that Marvel musical I was talking about, then maybe he can summon this suit by singing a song.
Oh God, that's that Pa, you should check this out. There's like the closest thing you're gonna get. There's a Deadpool musical where he sings like a parody of no one of the Gaston song, but themed to Deadpool.
That's awesome.
Like Deadpool, Beauty and the Beast. Like look into it. It's good. Tiki, I'm sorry, I'm doing all this talking here. Would you like to weigh in on the gadgetry, or should I just like list off a few quick ones?
Tiki,
you there, buddy? All right.
Snoring?
No, he's not snoring. He's fine.
Okay.
Okay, let me list off a few quick things here. So a few gadgets I also love. With the vibranium dust, with vibranium dust display, kind of like the X-Men had in the X-Men movie, where you can thing kind of gives that visual splendor from the beginning. We have the sneakers, which is priceless.
Oh yeah,
I love the EMP balls, like the pellets that turns like the EMP disc that stop the cars.
That was another cool scene. It looked like it had more power than just EMP stopping it, because isn't that the same thing they used to start up a car after the casino scene too?
Oh my, Pi, I think you're right on that. I really do. I think, yeah, it's like, I guess it's like you can also reverse engineer, like you can turn it on, turn off. So yeah, and speaking of that, we also get like the cool piloting system. The cool piloting system. That's
That was amazing.
The lab glass, the mining system. With the monorails. That's all good. And, with the mini bug. We got same thing. We get the idea of the vibranium disrupting waves that go with the mining system, the monorail. So I'll speak to this and I'll turn it over to you, Pi. But well, let me ask you, Pi, how do you feel about kind of giving vibranium a weakness like that? The idea is it doesn't get rid of the vibranium, but it kind of disrupts it, so you can get openings within the vibranium when you're in that little kind of wave setting. What do you think?
I think it's good. They do a lot of things in this movie that make vibranium work almost like magic that can do anything. And having something like that as its kryptonite that still fits in with the science and all that they've been talking about with it, it's like kryptonite if kryptonite was more organically introduced into it.
Yeah, I like it for two reasons. In the Ultimate Avengers animated movie, and I forget if that's from the Ultimate Comics or anything, but they flirted with the idea that a gamma radiation could weaken vibranium, not destroy it or anything, but could weaken it. Like if the Hulk did a Hulk clap or something, you could disrupt vibranium like that. So it feels a lot like that, and also it makes sense if something absorbs vibrations. If a certain another type of vibration could not destroy it but disrupt it. So I was liking that. So I think I've done all the tech talk I can without going down the rabbit hole on this. So I guess let's.
I will say I like how the tech talk in the introduction reminded me a lot of old James Bond movies when he would go down with Q. Yeah, it was going down with Q and be like, here's all the gadgets, you're going to use these later in the movie, but if we introduce them now, it's a cool scene, everyone knows them.
Yeah. So let's let's transition to favorite moments.
Yeah. Kiki, you with us?
I think maybe we should just kind of carry the torch on this one, Pi. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments has to be the fight scene. I mean, the whole sequence there. It felt, again, like I said, with the Q scene, very James Bond, if James Bond was a superhero. But with just the way everyone spread out in the casino, and then the way that during the fight scene, the camera was all one shot going from character to character all around the room. Just some of the best fight scenes in the movie, which, again, the fight scenes in the movie weren't the best ever, but this one really stood out to me. And the end of it with Claw blowing up the safe full of money and being like, look, I made it rain, and all that. Just one of the funnier moments in the film, a good demonstration that Claw isn't someone to be messed with. He is a tough villain, not just a funny, crazy psychopath, as well as just a good showcase of the Black Panther fighting. You get a little bit of Everett Ross, not really fighting. He's in there a bit. You get the love interest. You get the Wario girl. You get them all in there.
Yeah,
it's a good showcase scene. And of course leads into the awesome car chase after, but that's more another thing.
Sure. Well, for me, I love both of our opening scenes. Everybody kind of spoke to the vibranium technology. It gives us kind of the history of history of Wakanda, and all the stuff we kind of talked about in the Wakanda section. There, I feel it's kind of covered that. But for me, I got some big wish fulfillment. It's something simple I wanted to see. It didn't exactly turn out 100% the way I expected to, but I was just looking for a bare minimum here, and I got it. I wanted to see young King T'Chaka in the Black Panther suit. Now, I didn't know if that was going to be the suit that T'Challa was wearing or not, but I love that we got a glimpse at him, and it was actually the son of King T'Chaka's actor, which is kind of, again, there's a thing about family or kind of sound alike names. In this case, the guy's son played the young version of himself, which is nice. But I was dying to see like the original Black Panther costume was it was Black Panther, but he had a cape. So I was kind of hoping for something like just honestly. That's really I was crossing my fingers to see young T'Chaka as like the Black Panther with a cape. Now we didn't get the cape, but we got like the tribal sash. You know what I mean? Like the little leopard, not leopard print, but the thing he was wearing like a mare sash or something.
Yeah, not
And
quite a cape, but it was a bit more to it than just a ninja suit.
I was saying bare minimum that we got young T'Chaka, which is honestly that was what I was really hoping for because they didn't have to do that, but just getting that much was great. And then like something close to a cape, because I was on the moon with that. And just the fact that that scene was a very pivotal scene within the movie, and that's how we started things off. So right off the bat, I was in a good mood watching this movie.
Well, there you go.
So that was my big.
I didn't realize that was the guy's son. I knew it looked familiar. I just assumed it was they still de-aging.
It's so you know what I didn't think of the. You're right. It's kind of it's so funny in that it's like they kind of subvert their own. Hey, we're Marvel. We can do anything now. We can de-age people to to when they were young and doe-eyed. But no, now we can, in addition to doing that, we can cast their children and play mind games on people, making you think we're that good.
Yeah,
it's astounding, really, what they're doing. That is playing mind games in the best possible ways. They're But yeah, and again, I love how that ties into like certain reveals and everything. It's a very important opening scene. It's 92, and I love just the irony that like all the important events in Marvel, like all the dramatic kind of tragic moments in Marvel, happened in the 90s. Like 91, we have the thing what happens with the Starks in Civil War, and 92, a year later, we have the tragedy of Eric Killmonger. It's like we know that Captain Marvel is going to be set in the 90s, so I just can't. I'm dreading. A part of me is like, oh, poor Carol Danvers, something bad's going to happen to her in that movie. I know it. Or Nick Fury. Maybe Nick Fury loses the eye in that movie. Maybe that's it. Oh, what'll happen?
It's like how most of Phase 1 movies all took place in 1 week. We have another big week back in 92 where all the Phase 2 and 3 movies have something terrible happen back then.
Yep.
My other. Oh, did you have anything else to say on that one?
On that one, no. You hit us with another one, and I'll hit you with another one, then we'll just continue. So what do you got?
Sounds good. My other favorite scene would be just the introduction of Shuri, and when Black Panther lands, and you get his mom there, and you get Shuri, and it's a little thing, but just the way they interact as siblings, and the way she was joking around with him and flipped him off, and he was teasing her, and all that good stuff to go with it. It just felt very humanizing because Black Panther is a very serious character, and I think I mentioned this earlier. He could have very easily fallen into the trap that Superman and Man of Steel, where he's just serious all the time, that he doesn't even feel human anymore. But little moments like that with Shuri make Black Panther feel human and make it feel all the more impactful when he does get very serious and dramatic.
Yeah.
It's just a good little moment. Plus, Shuri is fantastic, but we've talked about that a lot already.
And believe me, again, I kind of hit it with the suit line, like all the fun shenanigans and like that Q-esque scene. I mean, there's so many good moments with Shuri we could hit.
Oh yeah.
All right. For me, big moment for me. The ending. The ending, here's the thing, I kept stewing on the ending. The ending to me, I think I like it the more time I have to process the movie, the more I'm loving this ending. Because I went into this movie very much expecting kind of like a lot of people are saying Wonder Woman, I get that. For me, I was kind of expecting kind of a Christopher Reeve. This would be kind of the Christopher Reeve Superman for the black demographic. And I feel the ending epitomizes that in many respects. The ending specifically is kind of this, and here's the thing I appreciate so much more. Like, again, I'm dying to rewatch it, folks, but just stewing on, like how, again, I originally thought, okay, that's a nice ending, but it really hits on me how clever this is and how well written this is as an ending, where like it has to end at this moment, while the mid-credit scene kind of is also an ending to go to. This is the moment where it has to end because in an action, again, this whole ending, and the reason I kind of picked like an opening and a closing for for my moments is that the opening kind of puts it into play and shows like how Wakanda is, as much as we're very interested to see it and see what's going to happen with it. They did something T'Chaka did something very wrong that again put things into motion. In the end, we kind of make reparations for that, not just in the Wakandan outreach, but in this great symbol of, in that earlier scene, the kind of the jet, the jet that brought the Chaka and then the Dora Milaje there, was like obscured by clouds, and the kids saw it. Young Eric Killmonger, he saw like it obscured in the air. And at the end here, we reveal to kids now in like modern day Oakland, they're playing ball, and it just drops out of the sky. And now kind of an age of wonders where anything can happen. Like kids who are living in the Marvel universe, we have Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk kind of going around. It's just this giant awesome thing just kind of plumb appears out of the sky in a basketball court, and like they're marveling at it. Just think about how wonderful, and this is kind of the Reeves quality I'm talking about here, where like the mid credit scene like kind of spells this out for us in a fine way, but it's shown here that this is the ultimate symbol of Wakanda out in the world, inspiring black youth, inspiring people not through weaponry, but just through the sheer wonder of them. Like, oh my God, look what is possible. Look at what, the Wakanda, it's a place that's been a long time secret. Look, it's just kind of, it's everywhere and you never knew about it. Look how cool that is. Ending on that perfect moment of, who are you? And again, he's not, I don't think he'd say Black Panther. I think he'd say, that's the thing, you don't know what he'd say, and that's why we don't need it spelled out. Again, some people could see that as a cliche ending, but it's just the way that moment plays is just like, again, it's less who are you, it's like, where do you hail from, Wakanda, who are you? That's not important. What's important, it just, you know what I mean? It's just that great, like 1,000, like 1001, 1002 moments of you just hit it just so right of like what that ending is about.
It's fantastic. I love how this one and the scene with the UN not long after, with the "Who are you here?" and with the UN press conference, both kind of echo the ending of the first Iron Man, with the whole "I am Iron Man" scene. Because this is sort of like the start of the next log era in the MCU of finishing up Iron Man and Thanos and all those. And Black Panther is setting up both to be one of the big stars going forward.
Yeah, and it's a nice informed moment for Everett Ross, the guy who kind of knew least in the beginning of the movie, kind of knows more by the end. And you're absolutely right about how it echoes Iron Man, and again, that feels very appropriate. And honestly, I know we're still in Phase 3, but it feels very much like it would be like a good kind of like Phase 4 moment almost of like, hey, we're doing like another Iron Man, but in a very different capacity.
Yeah.
So speaking of our post credits here. So again, we kind of covered the UN scene, which again, that also would have been a fine ending by all means because of the gag of like, we are a third world country. What can you provide us? ...
Yeah, but I agree with you that the "Who are you" type thing with the kids and the basketball court, that one worked better for the actual movie ending.
And also, just the last thing with that ending too is that with the teaser, I was really kind of hyping up in the beginning. The thing that really kind of sold me on the movie, the whole step into the spotlight. That was such a great song choice for that, because again, that's what the whole movie's about, and that's what the ending's about. Wakanda stepping into the spotlight, and we did that visually, and again, that's what the whole thing's been about. T'Challa just kind of whatever he's going to say is about him. It's the action of him stepping in the spotlight over just saying that. So that was like the thing I was also trying to hit with that too. But speaking of stepping into the spotlight, here's we have another Marvel character who appears at the very end of this movie, the White Wolf. Now, many people may not know who the White Wolf is. No, I'm not joshing around, folks. But the White Wolf, believe it or not, it actually is a Marvel character. And what they did here, I think, is clever. Is that the White Wolf? There was another character who's kind of shares some similarities to Killmonger. Well, Killmonger. Less Bucky, more Killmonger, in that he is a White Wolf. Just to put it broadly, is that White Wolf essentially he's an adopted son of Wakanda. He's a guy who he had a plane that crash landed in Wakanda, and he was raised in Wakanda, almost like kind of like a Tarzan thing, like a sort of like, you know, we adopted like almost like a Superman, or I don't mean I don't know. There's a lot of Superman in these last kind of closing minutes here. I don't know what it is, folks. There's a lot of Superman to bring up, but seriously though, we do have Bucky, and of course one of my Winter Soldier favorites there. You know, bringing him into the fray, and going into this movie, like I was betting with my friends at the end. Like I wasn't trying to spoil it for him. It was like, you know, we were all wondering like, and who's going to appear at the end? It was like, come on guys, it has to be Bucky. We know he's in Wakanda. We know he's on ice.
Yeah.
And we reveal that Bucky is back, and you know he's all better now. And with Infinity War, we know that Bucky, he's kind of leading charge of one of the Wakandan armies, and I would figure that that's where the White Wolf of it all comes in. It's kind of a name drop. I think it's implying that no, he's not like an adopted son, but he is, you know, he's trusted enough, going from the guy who was thought to have killed, you know, King T'Chaka, to leading a Wakandan army. That's pretty close to being kind of like a familiar son of Wakanda.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. I didn't know about all that. I don't know anything really about Black Panther, so I didn't know the White Wolf connection there.
So also, there was this fun prelude comic where specifically it was like basically they kind of spelled that a little bit more for the post credit, where you know, basically a comic they released to kind of remind people where he it's like it's like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's like a 2-issue comic, and they basically have like a little scene where they show Bucky. You know, he's frozen in there, and Shuri is mentioning that, oh yeah, I'm gonna be. I basically we learned that Shuri specifically has been tasked with healing his mind, like since he was put into the tube. Like she's the one who's been working on him in the frozen tube. Like, okay, we'll heal him. I'll work on some stuff. You know, you don't worry. And of course, we check in here, like, hey, Bucky's back, and he's all zen, he's all, you know, Wakanda, he's all decked out in this thing, and now we're gonna get, you know, sure, he's gonna slap on like a cool vibranium arm, which makes me excited. I love he's gonna finally have a vibranium arm. That's gonna be awesome.
Oh, it's gonna be cool. We also got the line earlier when they brought Everett Ross in to get healed up by her. She's like, "Oh, he brought me another white guy to fix up. Yay!"
Another broken down white boy to fix. Yeah.
Yeah, broken down white boy.
Yeah. And again, they earned that line. I love how they earned that line without making it feel like, okay, they're trying to say something. Or no, they're not trying to say something. It's the truth. He is broken down.
Yeah.
It's like he's not lying.
Yeah. Tiki, you want to quickly hit us with your favorite moments?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Let me see. Favorite moments. I have 2 of them. Of course, there's a lot of stuff, you know, kind of throughout the movie that I really like, details and whatnot. But I guess really, I kind of have it, you know, spread out where we have. Oh God, Jesus. Sorry, Dragon. It's been a long week, and you want to help me out with the 2 things I picked.
Oh yeah, sure. You had the museum scene, Tiki. The museum scene.
Oh, yes, got it, of course. So, Killmonger, what I love about this museum scene with Killmonger, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, that's chronologically the first thing I have on my favorites, right?
I believe so. Pi, do you remember it different? I think that's the first scene you have chronologically.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, folks, just want to kind of get the flow chart right on this, but, again, I don't want to kind of go into Killmonger's exact plans with the art gallery, but I will say I love the look of Killmonger in this scene. Just kind of like the, you know, the chilling sort of professionalism that he displays, you know, where it's like he genuinely knows that people are going to die in this moment, but he's just like uncaring about it. And it's that sort of like introduction to him, you know, that kind of like, okay, like this guy is not afraid to just like, you know, if a guy's got his girlfriend held hostage, he'll kill the girlfriend for him. You know, it's like save yourself the bullet. Bam. You know. Anyway, yeah. So you know, with that opening art gallery scene, there's one moment in particular that I just love. It's of course after he gives Andy Serkis the big speech about the Wakandan weaponry, he goes and he sees the map, the mask, and he's just staring at it, right? And then Serkis is just like, "Oh, don't tell me that's vibranium too." Nah, I'm just feeling it. Oh, I love that. It's like you don't have to say anymore. It's just like that tells you all you need to know about his character, and that, you know, he's respectful of his own ways, but he needs to, you know, he needs to have some sort of control over it.
That scene is a perfect introduction for that character too, because he seems like kind of an unassuming kind of black man in an art gallery in that scene. That's how he's playing it. But then he impresses the curator when he knows everything about that culture, about the real history behind that culture, and then he poisons her coffee. How terrifying is it? Like Howard Hamlin would be crapping his pants if he saw that scene.
Which interesting note about the coffee that I noticed, and this might just be me reading too much into it.
What do you got?
He makes a big note about the coffee in this scene and associates that with his character. And then later on in the interrogation, you see Ross pull out.
I saw that too.
Before he comes back on scene.
Yeah, I was worried for Ross for a minute, but then all the craziness happened.
Yeah, but it still worked as a signifier of, hey, remember that character we associate with coffee? Here he is.
Yeah, you know what's cool about that too? That's sort of it's a tease because he's in the scene a few seconds later. So it's like a Jaws tip-off almost. It's like a Jonathan Demme tip-off almost.
Yeah.
Okay, Tiki, the other moment was a thing with Ross's big moment.
Yeah, I remembered. Yeah.
Did he get on the plane?
So first of all, I like how we build up to the technology of that with Shuri in the car earlier on in the film. So that's all laid out, the very natural evolution there. But when Martin Freeman's in that plane, and I love the build up there. Just the we see just how much danger he's in just by staying in that room, and it's a very simple moment. But of course, people who watch the film know what we're talking about. The whole like, how much time do I have? 30 seconds. Put me in.
Well, it's like 50%. The integrity is like 50%.
Right. 50% integrity. Put me back in. And Dragon, of course, the great thing about that is, in this moment, this is like one of like 2 or 3 fake out moments that Ross has throughout the movie. Like, first time watching this, I genuinely thought they were going to do the whole like a heroic self-sacrifice moment here with him.
He gets shot. He could have died from coffee, and he almost gets blown up.
Yeah.
Right.
I get the feeling he's almost like the new Phil Coulson of the MCU, at least for now.
I'm down
filling
for that
human bureaucrat role. So I'm glad he didn't die in sacrifice immediately.
I would definitely say he's kind of like Phil Coulson 2.0. That's a good call.
I'm down for that. I like that. Speaking of Phil Coulson, just broadly, guys, what do you guys envision for the future, like Infinity War / just general future of Black Panther? Anything you guys want to see or like speculate on?
I mean, I definitely think the ending, like, that's the big game changer thing. Okay, Wakanda is becoming public. That's that's the I am Iron Man of this movie. You know what I mean? That's
oh yeah. There's so many good
I think that the Wakanda technology, it's going to make the everyday of the MCU more fantastical, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Wakanda's now public. They're prepping Bucky to lead an army in Infinity War, which again we were kind of speaking to, of like, hey, Bucky's back. He's all better now. He's going to get an awesome vibranium arm. It's going to be great. Manape, Manape, is now a new friend of Wakanda. And, we know I heard that, I look into it, he is going to be in Infinity War, so he's probably going to be one of the other guys supplying the army for that awesome, all chaos breaking up in Wakanda shots. That's kind of the Infinity War. Big thing with Infinity War we should talk about is that there are some theories that the Soul Gem might secretly be in Wakanda. The last gem, which would explain why we would go to Wakanda. And now the Soul Gem, it could just be just discovered in that movie in Wakanda. But the theory is that it could be it could be the source of the vibranium spiritual ability, in the heart herb, like the heart thing that was the source of the. I'm not saying like one of those was the gem. I'm saying like deep in the soil, the thing that gave that vibranium, that kind of like the vibranium that rubbed off on that plant that gives the Black Panther powers and that takes you to that kind of that Panther, that Panther plane with all the previous Black Panther, the spiritual plane.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
called the Ancestral Realm.
Yes, the ancestral realm. The thing to take it to the ancestral realm might be like deep down in the soil. You have the the soul gem that kind of is responsible for that, which can responsible for that psychedelic
I know we
connection.
kind of passed it, but I want to say a quick thing about the Ancestral Realm really
Sure,
quick.
sure, go on.
Go for it.
Yeah, I just love how we see it from T'Challa's point of view, and he's out in it, right? He's underneath the tree, he's living it, and then we see from Killmonger's point of view, he still sees the ancestral realm, right? Like he still sees the same view that T'Challa would, except it's from behind glass. It's it's from a distance, and I love that. Like that's kind of like it's visual poetry. It rhymes.
It makes sense for his character because one, he has never been to Wakanda, so he can't take in full beauty. And his connection to Wakanda, which is what that plane's all about, is from the stories he was told by his father. So that's what would be his ancestral plane. That's how he would talk to his ancestors, being his father, which again, by proxy, would be the connect to Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very brilliant. So again, so that could be the source of that whole ancestral plane, like how you can kind of visit that plane. Or lastly, and this would be kind of cool, they could do this. We know there's a giant vibranium meteor that landed. We don't know like how big that thing had to be huge. Again, I still can't. I saw it looked really big in the model that we had at the beginning of the movie. But regardless, there's a chance, and this would be cool and kind of a new kind of thing to do. At the heart of that vibranium meteor might be the soul gem, which again would still give you like the whole spiritual ability in the heart and everything. It would still give you all that, but basically it's saying Thanos would have to dig into wherever that giant meteor is kept to go inside, find the soul gem. There's definitely some potential there. I'm not opposed to the soul gem being connected to that because the whole spiritual, kind of correlation sounds interesting. But again, it could just be like Adam Warlock always could be the carrier of the soul gem. One of the two. We'll see what happens.
It could also lead to some interesting stories if Thanos comes in and basically destroys Wakanda to get the soul gem, and then if the soul gem is a part of a lot of the mysticism and power, Wakanda having to go on without the vibranium, a lot of the vibranium powers in things, at least being less powerful and more like a regular metal, things like that. Seeing T'Challa have to lead the country through that.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm kind of on Pie's side here. At the very least, I think the meteor is going to be used in some way that all the vibranium they have, particularly that giant meteor, if it exists somewhere, is going to be used, whether it includes a gem or not, in that big battle scene. That meteor is going to be used to hurt Wakanda in a big way somehow. So I think Wakanda is going to be really hurt at the end of Infinity War, which again, I think lays pipe to the Black Panther sequel, which we know Chadwick Boseman signed on for 5 films, which means he did Civil War, he did this. He's going to be in both the Infinity War and its sequel, and he's going to be in a Black Panther too. So
I mean, let's be honest here. There's going to be beyond a Black Panther trilogy. I think with the way this movie turned out.
Well, sure. I'm just saying for the time being, that's like, well, it's been like okay, but I mean, the rest of it, of course, they're going to bring it back. Come on.
Yeah.
But 2 fun facts though. Just to give you food for thought for Black Panther sequel or trilogy, or however they're going to go with like the Black Panther-centric films, is that Nakia in the comics, from what I understand, she turns into a villain. So that might be something interesting. And again, it might be due to the Soul Stone. Maybe whatever Soul Stone chaos goes on in Wakanda, maybe it poisons her soul or something. You never know. Mm-hmm. And also, Shuri does become a female Black Panther in the comics at a certain point. His sister, she eventually, she takes on the throne. She has a Black Panther suit.
Tell you the truth, the way she's using those claw arm cannons at the end of the movie, it's like she's almost halfway there to begin with.
Can't believe I forgot. Yeah, I forgot to mention when we were going through the gadgets. The Panther gloves. They're awesome.
Oh yeah. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of her in the fight scene using them. We only get like couple quick shots.
Some Tony Stark tech versus Shuri tech.
Yeah, and what's funny? Again, I kind of mentioned this in passing in the previous, in the non-spoiler video, but she does very much remind me of what they're doing now in the current Iron Man comics, where we have a young black girl, a young teen black girl as the new Iron Man. And I mean, Shuri, I'm not saying like turn Shuri into Iron Man, but I'm saying regardless, I think it feels very much kind of what the Marvel comics are going for now, and it feels like it feels a lot cooler. Well, again, I haven't read those comics; that might be good for all. But again, like a Miles Morales, I need to get to him. I just haven't gotten to him. But regardless, it seems like it's kind of a fascinating, like kind of laying pipe for Phase 4 in a way. We could definitely influence the Marvel cinematic, definitely influence the future of the MCU through our new characters like this.
Yeah.
Also, very least, I would love to see like continuing T'Challa's arc in the future. If again, it's very minor. I'd love to see like just a scene where he can reconcile with his father, because it'd be a nice gesture. It'd be nice if like they says, "Oh, you've changed things quite a great deal. That's okay, son. I approve of that." Something like that. I don't know. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right, so final thoughts, folks. Maybe also in final thoughts, if you guys want to kind of lay out your, I don't know if you're prepared for that, but to lay out your top MCU movies like I did, as I said, this movie is it's close to being pretty much flawless, but it's got some humanizing elements to it. In terms of like, look, like it doesn't have great pacing in the second act. It's human after all. It's like the god can bleed. You know what I mean? It's like these little minor details are so minor that they're almost not even worth kind of nitpicking over. But
God cut him shelf saving.
Right. But, in the end, folks, and of course, I'm really, obviously we've been kind of dodgy about the political importance of this film because we're going to be doing a whole separate podcast about that. But really, that's what I just want to highlight just how much, how cool it is that this culture and, and everyone that feels so empowered by this movie and so, just so thankful for this movie. And it's something that is obviously like one of the whitest guys on the internet, doesn't really have the chance of experiencing. And the closest thing for me in that regard is like when Oakland came on screen and I was like, oh, Oakland, I know that culture. All right. I'm kind of close to home in that regard. Woo. And I definitely think this is a movie where it's a victim of its own hype in some regards when it comes to, backlash and people saying like, oh, how can one movie be all that good? And really, at the end of the day, this is a movie where I think it's definitely greater than some of its parts. I think that and also it's by far the most auteur of the MCU movies so far. Like it's got the director's fingerprints basically written all over it. There's nothing that feels out of place. There's no cameo that feels like, hey, we got to have a Cap cameo just for the sake of having a laugh. It's just a really, really solid, well-told story, and it's unlike anything that you've ever seen in the comic book genre. And like I said, not nearly as entertaining as something like a Guardians would be. But it's got so much pathos and so much heart and so much imagination to it that, while imperfect, I definitely think this is going to be a historic movie in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I think it was a fantastic movie. And it's, like I said, there's one or two plot lines or characters I think kind of just got caught up and underdeveloped just with how much was there, but they juggle so many plates and do it so well. And like I said, a solid 9 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
As far as comparisons to the other MCU, well, I still have to put the first Guardians of the Galaxy as my top. Then maybe Thor Ragnarok, and then this one and Civil War about even. And then to round out the top 5, I'm the one person on the planet who really, really loved Iron Man 3, so I'm going to put that on.
No, Pi. It's funny. I actually had Iron Man 3 as my number 1 for a long time until Guardians of the Galaxy came along. So basically, in between that bookend chunk of, a phase 2, Iron Man 3 is kind of a sleeper hit for me.
There we go. I found my people. But yeah, I feel like how we had Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy in the same year, not long after Iron Man 3, we had that just great right in a row golden time of some of the best MCU movies. And I think with having Thor Ragnarok and then Black Panther, not technically the same year, but the end of one year, beginning of the next, we have another like golden right in a row pair there. I hope they're going to continue that into Infinity War.
Uh-huh.
For me, it's a very solid film. Feels like I think the best way to describe it is it feels like the strongest side film. I call it a side film because I don't really have any better way of describing it. It feels like, it's stronger than Doctor Strange, but not as familiar and rewatchable to me as Ant-Man is. It's a cool film with strong characters, dazzling world building. I have I have a few gripes, but again, not against the film as it stands. Again, nothing really against the film, just against again, really looks at it in comparison to other Marvel films, like how it's, what it says about the MCU, and again, even by that stretch, again, nothing bad. I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. Just get a few gripes, a little like Nick's while I was shaving, but again, looks a-okay. This is a film this is the film that Marvel Studios. This is a film that Marvel Studios makes to prove that they can do something different, fun, and that means something. And I think that accounts for a lot of the success of this film. They made a Black Panther film before they made the next MCU film. Before they made the next, it is necessary for kind of laying out a big battlefield for Infinity War. But at the same time, it felt like it was a film that said a lot about this character before it just was like laying pipe, but still laid pipe at the same time. It was basically a far more successful version. I guess it would be a baffling comparison. It's a far more successful version of what you try to do with a film like Iron Man 2, where Iron Man 2 we're rushing to lay pipe, but that's kind of getting in the way of the story. Here it was story before, and again, that's a sequel, so again you have different things to consider. But I think the same point is there. We're laying pipe, we're doing world building, we're getting to know someone, but again, we have enough of that with Civil War. Of okay, we get like a sampling of this guy, but now we want to know about him. We want to get to know him. We want to know why should we care about Black Panther, aside from just being amazed by him. And I think the film successfully did that. Look, in terms of ranking, we're at a point in the MCU where I don't think any major ranking that counts is going to come until after Infinity War. But I'll say this much. For me, and it's kind of like what I had with Pixar, where not just the diamond philosophy. I would agree to an extent, though, that again, like Marvel has not made a offensively bad film. Again, it's made ones that have just been overshadowed because there's so many of them now. They've been outshined. Like some just have to go at the bottom because otherwise the whole
failures on TV.
On TV, I'm talking about the movies, Tiki.
Sure.
Yeah. With the movies, again, Marvel really on the big screen can't do any wrong. And again, their films just been like, well, it's just been outshined by all the other stuff that's coming. Something has to go at the bottom, or else the whole structure comes crumbling down. And all I'll say is that, well, I'm going to wait for I can't give a whole fleshed out listing. I'll say this much: my top 4 is kind of like how I feel about Toy Story and Up with Pixar. Those are always going to be my top 2 films for Pixar. The original Toy Story followed by Up. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Marvel, I think I don't really see it changing unless Infinity War really blows me out of the water. Which again, I'm sure it's going to blow everyone out of the water. It's a question how much. I think my top 4 is preference is still going to be this. It's still going to be Winter Soldier at the very top, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers as the third one, then Civil War as the fourth, and then I'll say this much: I don't know where it lands. I'm going to say Black Panther's definitely in the top 10. Where in the top 10? I don't know. It's in the top 10. I'll say that much.
Well, you know what? Maybe Pi and I are just being recency biased, minded fanboys, Dragon. I think you're taking a much more realistic approach to it.
Yeah. I usually have a policy of not doing whether comparing this movie, a new movie in a series to previous movies, if in the first month or two. But this one does feel with the filmmaking all to really elevate it itself. But yeah,
I think Ryan Coogler at the end of the day is kind of like the big superhero of Black Panther.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, Tiki.
Right,
and also, just for consideration, Wesley Snipes did a good job, too, getting it all in the gears. He lubricated the gears. We needed him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But folks, I think the correct question here is not what are those, but what are those?
Step into the spotlight.